How you doing? How's it going, everybody? Hope you're doing well. Good evening. It shouldn't be just me tonight. I'm waiting for Aiden to come in. Um, Audio's a bit low? Oh shit, really? It's kind of high on my end. Thank you, Dave. Um, is that, could that be because your personal YouTube thing is, turned down a bit? Because I'm still normal on my end. My voice is in the yellow, which is too loud, technically. Um, maybe it was because I wasn't talking so, I wasn't projecting as much. Never know what YouTube does with audio. That is fair. Could be that I wasn't projecting enough. That might be it. I don't know. Um, but hello. Um, no, oh my goodness. I'm like also in the middle of doing taxes, which is great. We love taxes. Um, I'm okay. We're good. Cool. I it's it's that time of year, you know? I got all my shit together. I got all the expenses and stuff that I did for TableTalk together, and it's just a great time, you know? So fun. We love it. Um and I hope I didn't fuck anything up. That would suck. But it's not last year, because last year was way, way, way more annoying. It really was. Um Hello Pizza Funk. Welcome. Um all right. Well, I don't know where Aiden is, but he is on Do Not Disturb, so at some point he'll realize that it's time for the show, and he'll come in and he'll be like, "Shit, sorry, I was da da da," you know? Not that there's anything wrong with that, of course. Um, what is going on? Sorry, there's. All right, I'm gonna wait to do this other thing. There's part of my my tax return thing that I don't understand, so now I've got questions. Um, so I'm just gonna close this and we're good. That sucks. Is there a way for me to save what I've done? Okay, good. It is saved. All right, fantastic. There we go. Okay, good. Um, yeah, taxes are tricky. I've I've never understood them myself. Well, I get them to a degree, but it's my brain hurts because I just don't want to be charged with like fraud for some reason when I let you know um a a website do all my taxes for me because I can't. I don't have the time to just make sure and double check and everything. So I don't know. It's fucked. I watched an episode of Elementary earlier today. Isn't that the one where it's Sherlock and then there's like Watson, but she's like from New York or something? I don't remember. I didn't watch it. I never watched it. Hello, Timothy. Hello. Is it Lucy Liu? She's Watson? What? That's crazy. I had no idea. That's insane. I don't know. I saw the premise, like the little blurb that you see on the show, and it was like something about Sherlock being like of a spoiled uncle or something. And I was like, wow, what? What is going on? I don't know if it's good or anything. It just made me go, I don't know if I want to watch this. So I didn't. Um, she was like the only redeeming quality of the show, though. Oh no. I mean, good for the character, but oh god, if Sherlock himself isn't even a good part of his Sherlock show, fuck, dude, that sucks. Started season 3 of Invincible today. I hope you're enjoying it. I've never watched Invincible, but I heard good things. Well, welcome everybody to Table Talk Discussion and Discourse. I, as always, am your host, Alejo, aka Greydon95. We will not be joined by Boo tonight, and Aiden will probably join here somewhere. He was supposed to, though I think he said he was going to be baking, so that might be taking more precedence, which is fair. I understand this. But he's part of the reason why we're doing today's episode. Fuck. So, you know. I never worry about tax fraud, just let the website do its thing and go. Yeah. Well, I worry even though I let the website do its thing and go. But, you know. It's just a part of it. I just worry. I worry a lot. It's definitely an issue, but I think this is something that's okay to worry about. You know? Well, point of order, for those of you who might care, might not care, not sure, but I got an email earlier in the week from a company by the name of Fourth Wall, which apparently partners with a lot of YouTubers to do merchandise. And I was like, oh, okay, well, show me your information and such, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I have an account there for the podcast. And it's actually pretty sick what you can get on there. So, I'm wondering about changing everything over from TeePublic over to Fourth Wall because it has a lot of integration features and stuff for YouTube, as well as like being able to sell things through it. So it might make it so the dice thing is easier for my end. For selling dice and such, as well as we can design things through it, and hopefully that means that we could make things a little bit more interesting in terms of designs and such. And plus, the number one thing, I'll show you guys. I'll show you guys real quick here. Fourth Wall. So this is what... Hold on, let me log into it. This is what got me thinking about this and seriously considering this. Because when I see merchandise things, I'm like, oh, what is something that I would want? You know? Which is completely different than something that somebody else might want. Of course. Of course. But this is something that would be pretty fucking sweet that I feel like a lot of people might be interested in. If nobody gets it, that's fair enough, but something that I myself would get for sure. Where is it? Where are they? Oh, come on. I was showing the guys about this and they went, ooh. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Okay. So if you take a look here, it's good. It got recommended to me after I didn't vibe with the boys. I like it a lot more. That's fair. The boys fell off very hard anyway, so that's absolutely fair. This is what got me immediately. Custom acrylic keychains. There's also pins on the site. So, I would love to have little pins and little keychains of each of us on the TableTalk crew as things that can hang off of my fucking keys. That's something I super want. You know? That's absolutely something I want. So, that might be coming around at some point. So, you know, it might absolutely replace TeePublic. I know now we've gone from Redbubble to TeePublic and then maybe to Fourth Wall, because Fourth Wall seems to have the most like variety of things that you can design for, and I really want those keychains. So, yeah, so that's, I mean, you know, obviously full transparency there. You can see the cost of each one. It looked like, I think it was like 216 or 236. I'm not sure. I just looked at it and then I closed it, so who knows? But I would probably upcharge it a little bit to like $4 or something for one of them. You know, like obviously there's a bit of a profit that you know you want to have, but I don't want it to be like exorbitant costs. You know, I don't want it to be a shit ton of money that you would get just to get a little thing. You know. It would feel fucking scummy. And it already feels a little scummy to put that forth, but I think that's one of those things that I'm just like, I don't know. It's one of those things that might be good. I don't know, for growth and such for the channel. Even if you guys don't buy anything through it, that is fair enough. You know, we all have, you know, needs for our own money, so don't feel obligated to if and when we do switch over to it. I just want it to be easier for everybody who does want to buy something, and easier to have a good site for it, you know. Hello.
What is up, my lad? Just realized what time it was.
That's what I figured. No worries, dude. No worries. Yeah, I was just talking about Fourth Wall a little bit, talking about how I got the email and such, and telling the peoples about it. So really hoping to put hello, Stealth Man.
Hello.
Here, I will give you the link, of course.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
Yeah, no, I absolutely want a keychain in my profile picture.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking about the ones of like, you know, the one that you have as your actual profile picture, and then the heads that I have for us as well. You know, yeah, it's something. I think it's just gonna be one of those things that I need to set up and figure out how this all works, right? But it will be something that comes into play at some point, so look out for that. I'll see about making a little promotional video potentially. Once everything is all set, we can do some design such, and we can come up with some ideas and implement them, and it'll take a little time, obviously, because you know, art is not cheap. In fact, I bought a new art thing, but with my own money that I plan on having, because summertime's coming, baby, and I had an idea.
Oh.
I did. If you have an idea for a summer change for your PFP, hey man, run it by me and I will get that shit set and sorted.
I think I could come up with a few.
Cause I'm taking the I'll send you the idea later after the show,
Yeah.
so you can see. But I'm excited, you know.
Interesting.
Yeah. So think about that a little bit if you want. Yeah. I feel like the Fourth Wall idea. Hope it works out. Yeah, I mean it's pretty simple and easy, and I already have the account, and that's really all you need. You just need to design stuff and put it up there. It's really simple, which I'm glad. And it's made for influencers, quote unquote. So easy enough to get integrated. And you know how everybody has like their YouTube shelf that you see under their videos? Apparently this is what does that. So there you go.
Okay.
We'll be like a real channel. I guess. I don't know.
Consider that legitimacy lent.
Indeed. Obviously, you know, it's more of a joke. But
Yeah.
It is neat to see that we could actually have that, because I've been wondering how the fuck people do that. Anyway, tonight we are going to be talking about yes and no. We talked about this briefly, in fact, during a couple episodes ago, you and I.
Yes.
And the vagaries of which I came up with that were unsuitable in terms of trying to figure out where I stand on it, on saying no to players. Um, and I have a couple of videos here that are just about that. Um, so I hope to have my perspective at least cemented because of these, or at least understand more so that maybe I don't have a point at which I would actually say no to something, you know? Just to see where these uh have me gauge things, because I'm assuming, at least usually what I assume is that the perspective is, if it's ridiculous to the point of making you uncomfortable, then you say no, right? And that's like a given thing, which I can understand. Um, because you don't want to be like in something that you don't want to have to engage with, right? You as the DM having to run something. And then, of course, the other easy thing to point to is all of the crazy crit crab things, crit crab esque
Mm.
things, which it's already like, well, yeah, of course, of course I would just be like, yeah, no, that's we're done here. Um,
Um,
but yeah,
so quick question. Perhaps this is my attention just wavering because I'm ADHD as fuck.
yeah,
But is the point you were trying to make that like you like don't really tend to tell your players no like at all
yes,
when it comes to like improv? Okay, fantastic.
yeah, exactly.
I have an exercise that can prove to you that you do.
Okay,
Um, please set a scene for me, like a standard D&D esque. Just set a scene, perhaps coming upon a village or something.
sure.
What have you?
Okay. So you and your party are walking across the grounds of
Mhm,
a forest. The underbrush is
mhm.
hitting your legs as you emerge through into a bit of a grove, a very hidden spring. That seems to have some animals that are around. Some of them see you as you approach and are kind of like, you know,
Okay,
skittering off
uh,
and such.
I I would like to roll an attack roll on a nearby deer with my lightsaber.
Okay, well that falls under the purview of the ridiculous,
Okay.
right?
Well,
Like that's
okay.
that was already
I
something that I feel like doesn't need to be said.
okay. Okay. I had like how to put this. I had heard you mention that like you'll say no to things that make players feel uncomfortable, but I did not hear you mention things that like
That
break the setting.
that's more what I meant for like the crit crab esque things, I suppose.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those are sometimes that, right? Of somebody just being completely out of the game. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, I'm in a similar position where so long as things uh tonally are like
yeah,
make more or less sense,
yeah,
as well as which like there's some variance there. I'll
exactly.
allow someone to make like a lighthearted comment during a very like grim time or whatever
Yeah,
because I'm like, well, it's their character. Um, but like so long as things match the setting, I don't typically view it as the DM's role to say no.
right, right, exactly.
Um, Now, of course, you are the mediator between the rules and the
Hmm.
players, and you'll have to say like, "Hey, I'll allow this type of role," or "Oh, hey, no, I won't allow this type of role
Right,
in this situation."
right.
Um, like I'm comfortable with my role as like arbitrator or arbiter of the rules, I
Yes.
guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but like when it comes to like specifically improv, like yeah, I'm more laissez faire. as it were.
Right, exactly. Like I said, when we had originally talked about this, I can imagine the possibility that there might be a situation where I might say no about something like that, but I can't give you specifics because I can't imagine the exact thing, because usually, in my experience, everything that I have encountered has been something that I've been like, yeah, this is great. You know? Like
Yeah.
it's not something, and that's why I say the vagaries that I had before, because I can't come up with a scenario myself, because most of the time, at least like I've said many a time, our group has been something that's been great for whenever we play, and most of the other groups that I've been a part of, in fact all of the other groups that I've been a part of, have not ever been in that situation where I've been like, that doesn't fit, you know, that doesn't make any sense, or this is completely out of the realm of something that I want to deal with, or anything like that, because I at least have had the experience with people that I've been like, yeah, you're great, you're cool people, you know, um, and not a crit crab scenario. Not to keep harping on that, but that's the only like thing that I can think of in that instance where any of that comes into play. That, and I guess a Reddit scenario, if you will.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, like there's always like no accounting for that guy
yep,
showing up at your table, but perhaps I just am privileged that like most of the people that I've played D&D with seem to be pretty chill.
exactly.
Though I am starting a new D&D campaign tomorrow, and
Ah,
uh a coworker from my last job and a friend of mine,
mm-hmm.
a partner of his, and a complete stranger to me
Mm,
are in that game. So like maybe the stranger is that one guy from Reddit. I don't
right,
know.
yeah, and like whenever the one that I've talked about ever starts up, it'll be with mostly people that I don't know, potentially. So I at least know my coworker who wants to get it together, and depends on if we have other coworkers or not. I have no idea. But at that point, maybe something will happen. But I don't foresee that, you know, because I feel like most people are pretty respectful,
Mm.
in terms of respecting your time and the time of others, and just in general, people as people. At least that's the hope, right? I don't know any of these people outside of my work setting, so um,
Uh, there is a streamer who I follow
yeah,
who is just starting his first D&D game. And he played D&D once in high school
sure.
and like fucked it up, and he is like kind of swore off D&D, but he's
Uh,
giving it another shot
oh, good.
now. Yeah. And when they had like the session 0, he was like, "Hey guys, I the only thing that I want of my character is I don't want to be what someone else is." Like
Hmm.
if there is like I don't want there to be like two paladins and I am the second paladin
Right.
or second wizard or whatever. He picked a warlock.
Okay.
Um and we shall call him one guy.
Oh.
um, that one guy was like, "Oh yeah, I'm thinking of playing like a bard-esque character,"
Hmm.
and he was like, "Oh well, that's too charisma based." Or the streamer
Yeah.
was like, "Oh well, like that's two charisma based characters, but like yeah, it's pretty different still.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool."
Yeah.
Um, and then they get to session 2, and he's like, "Oh, I'd like to cast Eldritch Blast," or like that one guy was
Yeah.
like, "I'd like to Eldritch
Of
Blast,"
course.
and the streamer was like, huh. And he starts asking him after the session, he's like, so, what class are you? He's like, oh, I rolled a warlock. Oh, um, what patron? Great old one,
Hmm.
which is the same as the
Of
streamer.
course. Yep.
Suffice to say, they had the same, class,
Oh no.
patron, and invocations.
Oh no. Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. Um,
No, so
so,
sorry. Two of the same class isn't good. No, two of the same class is fine, but the specific request by the streamer in this instance was I would really prefer that not to be the case, for me.
Yeah.
So it's just
I don't want to be the second whatever.
yes, it's less about the fact that there are two of them and more about the fact that this person did not want that to be the case.
Mhm.
Anyway.
Yeah, apparently, like this story's pretty much over, but
Yeah.
apparently the D&D scene where the streamer is like pretty hopping.
Yeah.
Like there's a bunch of groups that like play fairly regularly.
Yeah.
And this guy is the one who's always messaging the group chat like, "Hey, I'm running this. Does anyone want to join?"
Mhm.
To like crickets.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, there is that one guy.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So perhaps I will meet him sometime in my D&D career, but
Right.
not yet.
Yeah. Two of the same build is bad. It's like the ninja episode of South Park. I have Kenny's powers, but better. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, unless it's agreed upon beforehand. Yeah, it's unfortunate for sure. But anyway, okay. So, side note, pointy out has a problem with dwarves now.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Well, maybe sometime. Uh, I always keep thinking Crit Crab died because I remember Deceased Crab, who I also think is dead, even though he isn't. Fair enough. Fair enough. Hello Entropy and Verity, of course. Okay. Well, let's get on to the videos. Hey, so
Please.
this first one, we are going to go and visit somebody that we haven't covered in a very long time. It's Ginny D. Whoa. So Ginny D
Yeah.
has this video called "Yes and Isn't the Great D&D Advice You Think It Is," which was interesting, an interesting title. Not entirely sure where we're gonna go with it, but it is in the realm of what we've been talking about, and this is the video that I thought of when we were having this discussion before. So let us begin.
Tabletop games are not improv, in the theatrical performance sense. At least our home games aren't. But the act of improvisation is definitely a part of the game, and it's a part that a lot of people find really difficult. Part of a dungeon master's job is reacting on the spot to the unexpected things that your players do, like using dragon poop for scent camouflage or inventing MLMs. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Dave. I'm the one who's supposed to be playing the villains. When people are trying to improve this skill, they often look to improv as a guide. And one of the most popular improv tactics that's made its way into D&D circles is the concept of yes and. Don't get me wrong, I do think this concept can be helpful. There's a reason it is such popular advice for DMs, but I don't think it should stand alone. If yes and is the only tool in your toolbox, it can create new problems and ultimately make DMing harder. Even though I always carry a sword, it isn't the correct tool for every situation.
Yes.
That's what you need a hammer for.
Right, exactly. Okay. Well, so far, I mean, I already agree that you should have more at your disposal than just yes and, of course. Though I don't know how that can't be multiple things, I guess. In the sense that yes and kind of covers a variety of situations. But I don't see how, like, what is it? What would be the complementary tool, I guess, do you think? Because, like, I'm just thinking, yes and implies fluidity with how things go, which I'm already like, well, that's kind of my main thing that I usually am about, because it's like, you want to roll with what characters choose to do rather than, like, a specific thing in your story needing to happen a certain way. That's just kind of the base thought, at least when I think of improv and yes anding in D&D.
So I think this advice may be geared toward newer DMs. Which I'm like trying to remain like conscious of as I
Yeah,
watch the video.
for sure.
But I would propose that DMs, when presented with like what have you from their players,
Yeah.
Instead of just saying like yes and why not append so like yes and but if. So like yes, you can do this, but like if you do this, you may get what you like actually wanted, or even no but if.
Yeah.
Because like no but if or like and yes and are both very powerful statements
Yes.
that like are applicable in many situations.
Mhm.
Um and yes, if you are like if you as a DM are limiting yourself to only saying yes and
Right.
when confronted with what have you from whatever player who may or may not be that one guy from Reddit,
Right.
then yeah, you're kind of at the mercy of your players.
Yeah. It's true.
So like I would agree with like the video thus far, I
I
guess.
guess, yeah. I think I would like to really prop up your point of no but if. I think
Mm,
that's incredibly good as a an addition to this, because um in order to facilitate the same effect that your players are seeking, but make it so that maybe they made like the most ridiculous thing that would not actually like logically do what they want them what you want them to, or what they want to have happen, um but then giving them that alternative that they actually do have the capability of doing, to then achieve the same effect. I think that's something that is important to really recognize, because you're not just shutting them down that way, right?
yeah.
You're giving them the alternative, um, which I guess is a form of yes and, but like just I don't know.
It's recognition of the player's intent behind what they
Yes,
want.
yeah,
And not so like how how to put this? Releasing yourself from the constraints of uh like obeying your players, I guess,
yeah,
and what they are saying word for word, and then saying like, oh well, you may not be able to do that, but it sounds like you kind of want this.
yeah.
How about this thing that like the rules are like a bit more happy with, or that perhaps fits the setting or the lore better, or what have you.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Again, the intention that your players are going for. Yeah, I think that's really what we're trying to accomplish. And especially for newer players who might just throw something out there.
Yeah.
It's better to look for that intention, and like the clarifying questions of, so your intention is to do this. So, and then they answer in the affirmative or negative, and then you go, okay, well, you can't do it this way, but you can do it
Mm,
if you do it like this. Yeah,
yeah,
that's absolutely. I think
yeah.
that's the evolution of yes and when you first start out, I feel, right?
Yeah, that no, but if
Yeah.
is definitely a statement that I got as I got like grew more experienced
Right.
as a D&D um like player and DM.
Mm-hmm.
Um just like I don't know. I have found that when I'm just trying to facilitate intentions,
Yeah.
like my players tend to be pretty receptive to it. That
Yeah.
of course your mileage may vary.
Of
I
course.
can't broadly like tell all DMs and all tables like, oh, play it this way.
Right.
But like, yeah, that's what's worked for me.
Mm. Let's see. If my main four characters were a real party, I would have two bards. That's why I got stumped. Fair enough. If you know your party, yes and would should be enough. But if you don't know what they will do, where that won't work, use something else. Kind of. I think it's more just the fact that we as game runners have to understand intentions. I think that's the best way to put it, because and that can be done not just through intuition, right, but by clarifying questions. You shouldn't be afraid to ask your players just so that you can clarify and make sure that the situation is as you understand it. I think that's important for everybody.
Sometimes you look at your players and you say, "So you touch it?"
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And yeah, understanding intentions can be a very fun way to just completely change the tone of everything, right? Because just like with that example, that changes the entire situation immediately. Especially if you say it in that way. Oh, so you touch it.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry, I just need to roll stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Feeds into that mystique and mystery and everything. It's great.
Sometimes you need a dagger. I have a better tool to help DMs who struggle with thinking on their feet during sessions. But in order to understand it, we have to
God,
first...
she says no, but if.
That would be so funny. Oh my god. We'd end the stream. It's over. We're done.
we peaked.
Understand yes and. This term comes from improvisational comedy.
Oh no.
Think Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Okay.
Or those events that your weird cousin keeps inviting you to on Facebook, where it's often taught as a sort of golden rule. It's a way to build scenes collaboratively and keep the momentum going. When an actor introduces a concept, their scene partner accepts it, that's the yes, and then adds to it, that's the and. This is normally used when setting up the premise for the skit. For example, if one actor says, "Man, it sure is tough working at the rubber chicken factory," their partner might respond with something like, "Yes, and finding a human eyeball in the latex injection mold this morning sure didn't make it any easier." This is why I didn't get invited back to improv club. Of course, it's also important to note that not every improv actor even likes yes and. Some have argued that it goes against the fundamental spontaneity of improv to force that kind of structure on a scene. But as we've already established,
That's
D&D
an
is
interesting
not
concept. Because, like, I guess in a way, but at the same time, aren't you trying to spontaneously add to that prompt?
Yeah, so...
But I get it. I do get it. Because it is a, it's a mold.
Yes.
Rather than it being pure improv. Yes.
Is that your cat?
Yeah, Mab yells at me whenever I don't have her in the room. And she will come to the door and specifically yell at, like, the crack. So that I can hear her very clearly. She knows this. It's
I remember back when River would do the same until I let him into my bed at like 2 a.m.
Unfortunate. Yeah. Well, so this is the thing. They understand when it's bedtime, but they understand that when I'm in here in my office, I'm not asleep. So that's the thing. I spend all day with them. All day. And then they're like, "But you didn't spend enough time, though." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. I understand. But also, I have some things that I need to do. Please." I love my cats. It sure is boring around here. My boy, this peace is what all true warriors strive for. There you go. It sure is boring. But yeah, so, yeah, it's just an interesting improv thing. Sorry, you were saying something before.
Yes, completely unrelated to whatever it was that I was talking about before cats. I adore that little acorn basket.
Oh, yeah. That's nice.
That is so fucking cute.
Yeah. Oh, I just noticed the D12 up there, too. Giant, hey?
Yeah.
Oh.
Very big.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Not improv. So
when watching these videos, one of my favorite things to do is like pick apart whatever set dressing.
Oh yeah.
In the videos.
Yeah. It's impossible to keep those vines dust free, though. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it would be.
This is why I unfortunately have the ability to kill most plants when I get them. It is sad.
How can this tool be applied at the game table, and should it? First, a brief disclaimer: all of this is founded on the assumption that your players are operating in good faith. If your players are actively trying to break the game or cheat, you don't need improv tools, you need better players. Got it? Okay, cool. Imagine this. Your party has just barely scraped by an encounter with a fire giant, and they've had the absolute crap burned out of them. One of your players has already established that their father was a healer, so they might say, hey, did my dad teach me to make any kind of salve to treat burns? If a DM wanted to use the yes and technique here, they might say, yes, and the main ingredient is a flower that you've seen growing in this area. This rewards your player for involving their backstory and thinking immersively about their character's experience in the world. For most of us, this is a good habit and something we want to encourage at our tables. And to be clear, I think this example is great. I would totally do this at my table. They'd have to roll some kind of check to make the salve, and I'd be careful to limit its healing power so that I'm not totally screwing my future game balance, but I would let it happen.
I assume then the next... Yeah, oh, of course. But I assume then the next thing is going to be an extreme example, you know? Because that's kind of just the feel that I get from where we're going, because this is incredibly normal and easy to take in and replicate, but like the next one's going to be, I don't know, something crazy.
Well, yeah, of course it's got to be an extreme example. She's trying to sum up a lot of potential situations into just a 9-minute video.
No, of course. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying, like, I don't know if I'm going to learn anything from this, unfortunately. Because this is going to be exactly my mindset of everything is usually fine until it really isn't. Yeah, you know, the crit crab thing, as I said before. But we'll see. Ability to kill most plants inches away from Alejo. It's not intentional. I just have things to do.
It's just an aura.
Yeah. I just have things to do, and sometimes I forget, and then sometimes the plant is dead, and I go back and go, damn it.
I understand why so many people suggest the yes and principle to game masters, especially because some DMs say no more than an 8-year-old on a power trip with a new babysitter. If the DM expected players to fight some bandits, they might feel unprepared if the players decide to set a trap instead. During those times, it can be tempting, especially for a DM who isn't confident in their ability to improvise, to just tell the players, no, you can't set a trap, that's impossible, I'm telling my mom. And for those...
Many such cases.
Exactly. Okay, I understand the point that's being presented of the... God damn it. Hang on. Give me just a second to go and placate the queens of fairy.
How's everyone doing tonight? Let me open. I could have sworn I had. Yeah, there we go. Oh, lots of familiar faces. Jam shirt is boring. Yeah. So, what strategies or mindsets do most of you guys have when you are in game, not only like as a player at the table, but like if you are a DM in your own games?
They have been suitably tithed, I think.
Welcome back, Alejo.
Thank you.
I am crowdsourcing opinions on improv and asking everyone in chat what they think.
You should, because I'm not disagreeing with any of this so far. I don't think it's going to be one of those videos where there's a lot of criticism, unfortunately.
Always pretend I know what I'm doing.
Right.
Yeah, very fair.
As you should.
I act like everything was planned months ago.
There you go.
I'm like, you players falling right into my trap. You're eating out of the palm of my hand. And then meanwhile, I'm like furiously scribbling notes.
Yes.
Thankful for the fact that this is not in person.
Exactly. Yes. From a newcomer point of view, I'd fly by the seat of my pants. That's fair. It's so, like I've always said, it's nice to have a guideline at least, and then you can fill in the blanks, which is what I do usually with how I run things, because I have my guideline, I have the idea of what the thing is, and then I have the idea of where it's going to go, and then the conclusion. But all the middle bit is subject to what the players do and their desires and such, right? It's especially with like Vampire, you know? Vampire has been totally just like, I have the seeds already set of many a thing, but you know, ultimately it depends on what each of the characters is going to do with their knights as to how they get there.
Yeah. All right.
So shall we continue?
Please.
DMs, the yes and principle can be a good reminder to stay open to player creativity. But also, not every situation is a yes and situation. There are absolutely times when a yes isn't good for the game, or even isn't possible. And if you have a party that's willing to exploit your generosity, you can quickly end up with a game that spirals out of control if the players aren't given any limits. Well, I have good news. Yes and does not have to be a standalone tool. It can be 25% of a bigger, better tool. And that's because both halves of yes and have a counterpart.
All right, what do you think? I mean, no is in there.
No, and but.
Yep, no but is going to be in there. We're done. It's over.
Like, I swear to fucking God, we're so fucking good at this.
It's going to be no down here, you know, bottom left, right under yes, and but is going to be all the way across from and. It's got to be, right?
It must. It's
must.
Like, but is the opposite of and yes is the opposite of no. So like,
it has to be. It has to be.
It
must. Tails Arcane channel on improv. We don't prep to avoid improv. We prep so our improv is better and easier and more impressive for our players. Oh, but to avoid. Yes. Yeah. That's fair.
Now, with me, you know, resting on my own laurels for being so smart, if this is like yes, no, but and as the table, I just want to point out that this is an incredible video from Ginny D. I fully agree.
Yes. I would say so
experienced too. DMs do absolutely learn this.
I agree.
Fantastic video, Ginny. Spectacular.
As long as it's there. Of course.
As long as it's no and but. Otherwise, better do some work, Ginny, because clearly this video is the issue.
Maybe it's more vague, like perhaps. So I don't know. Because I feel like we have multiple spaces, so we're gonna have no but we're also gonna have some other things. It looks like. So I'm curious.
Nah, maybe I guess.
My only thought with that is because it was drawn out this way, and you have yes and on those two corners, right?
Yeah. So I'm thinking like the four squares will be yes and no and yes but and no but.
Okay. That very well could be, yeah.
Or sorry, yeah. But yes, but no, yes, but no, but.
Yeah. More room besides no and but. Yeah, that's maybe. We'll see. In between yes and no, there is a roll to find out. Yes. That is true. All right, here we go.
Yeah, that's that white cross in the center.
Wait, why is it there? Oh, that's strange.
What?
Sorry, I went forward it once frame. Hold on. Okay, here we go.
Better tool. And that's because both halves of yes and have a counterpart, no and but.
Fuck yeah!
Yeah, okay, right. Yeah, it's right. I see how it's put together now. Yes,
well,
we're done.
Alejo,
it's over.
It was a great show.
It was a great show.
Cookies to make.
It's over. Yep.
We're having a potluck tomorrow.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, job done.
Fantastic video, Jenny.
Job done. I
agree.
There's no way that we can like disagree now because this is exactly what we were talking about.
Yep.
Fuck. So
But-
then my foundation in my belief of how this works is correct. Or at least confirmed by another individual as well as you and Boo, of like, it's just those extreme cases. That's it. You know? Like,
Yeah.
that's... and the intention is what matters. Like,
Yeah.
that's it.
If you have players who are sitting at your table with the intention of like, who are thinking in their hearts, I am with friends and we are all here to have fun.
Yeah.
Then you as the DM have the freedom to respond to most situations with yes and or like no but if. And like presenting an alternative to facilitate intentions of the players.
Exactly.
But like, there will be that guy from Reddit, and God, do I look forward to meeting him personally.
Right, exactly. No and, as in no and get fucked. That would be great. I do want to see the things for like no and yes but, I guess. I assume the yes but could be consequences, right? Of the yes, which is fair enough. I mean, that's what you should have for most decisions anyway. Consequences should matter in your game. So yeah.
I will say, going along the lines of yes, but I really like the freeform nature of and this is just me expressing appreciation for in Vampire the Masquerade. How like, oh yes, you can get through the door, but you make a bunch of noise.
Yes, exactly. Failing forward.
Yeah, that is something that I am trying to like copy over into my own games. Of like, DCs don't necessarily have to be like sky high.
Yes.
You can like make easier DCs, but just have it be like, if you pass the DC is say 10, whatever. Fuck it, sure. DC is 10. DC is 10, but you like do this, and like, actually no, now that I think about it, that's exactly what Pathfinder 2e does.
I think so, yes.
Because if you like pass the DEC by more than 5, I think it's a crit.
Yes. I believe it's 5 or 10, yeah. There's a certain amount, yes. There's that, and they also do talk about the degrees of failure, right? And degrees of success. So yeah, I mean, it's just a useful thing to have, and I think that it's something that's like, the mindset is at least coming into a lot more games, and a lot more people are utilizing it. At least I hope, because continuing forward with like, oh, the DC to unlock this door is 15, but you get like 12, and then it's like, okay, you can unlock the door, and I'll let you unlock the door, but there will be like, you might scrape it to shit, so you might make it so it's easier for people to realize that somebody broke in, or maybe I'll make it so that, you know, when you open the door, it does that one squeak just as you open it, just enough to get in, you know, that one really loud squeak that you were really hoping that it wouldn't, so that it could potentially alert people, and, you know, you get all these instances that you can put in between that failure and success. It's good. Anyway, go on, Jenny.
Present
Take it home.
Take it up.
yes, no, and but grid. The Yanab.
Nice.
It's fine, we're workshopping it. Imagine that your party is at a royal ball, and the rogue asks if they'd be able to sneak poison into the king's advisor's wine goblet while no one is looking. Here's how each option on the grid might look.
Okay.
Yes, and all eyes are on the king right now as he gives his address, making a perfect opportunity for you to do so unnoticed. Yes, but the king's goblet is very close to the advisor's, so you'll have to be careful to target the right one. Roll an intelligence check to see if you can figure out which is which. No, and you notice that the advisor doesn't seem to have a goblet of wine. He appears to be trying to keep his head clear tonight.
I really appreciate that the no and is not no and you can't fucking do that, you idiot. Obviously it wouldn't be, but it's less no, you have no ability to do that. Or it's to clarify the situation in front of the player rather than to tell them that they can't do something, you know? Because they could still do it if it was possible, but in this situation currently, it is not possible. Like, the world around them is not what they thought it might be. Rather than you had a bad idea, you know? If that makes sense.
Yeah. I swear to God, if the no but is like, oh, no, they're not drinking wine, but you do see them stepping out to grab some fresh air on a veranda that isn't has no guards or other guests.
Mm-hmm.
Because she mentions like, oh, you should
Yeah,
recognize player intentions, like I want to kill the noble.
Yeah, exactly.
I swear to God.
It would be great. Awesome pause. I think I've seen that meme. I did pause it at a good point. But I rolled it back, unfortunately. So here we go.
Doesn't seem to have a goblet of wine. He appears to be trying to keep his head clear tonight. No, but you see a servant getting ready to serve bowls of soup to the head table, including the advisor, and those could be accessed without being seen.
Sure.
Anytime you're faced with a situation you didn't anticipate, start with 2 decisions. Ask yourself, is this something that would even be possible in this situation?
Right.
That's the yes or the no. Then you either explain why it's a yes or no with an and, or introduce new information with a but. Either way, you're giving your players context for whatever call you've made. This quick 2-step process reminds you to react not based on what you want or expect players to do, but based on what the story can support.
Okay.
The question isn't, do I want them to poison the advisor? It's, is it realistic for them to be able to poison the advisor? Is this court well defended against espionage or assassination attempts, or is their security lax? How crowded is this royal ball? How attentive or distracted is the advisor? Are your players trusted in this space, or would they be viewed with suspicion? I'm not saying you can't factor your own direction for the game into decisions like this. I know this might be controversial, but if you have big plans for the advisor and you've done a lot of work on those plans already, I don't think it makes you a bad DM to not allow your players to take him out with a single sleight of hand check. But using a no and gives your
though I guess it's one of those things, at least for me, the malleability of your intended direction, I guess. Because if the advisor is absolutely essential, and it would fuck everything if this were to happen, it's really that pros and cons of if you are prepared for that or not, in the sense of like, can you change it in such a, or at least replace him in such a way that it would work okay for you or not. So like in my case, at least, if these guys in Vampire encountered the primary antagonist, like next session, and then they murked him, it would be like, all right, that's over. Let's move on, because there's other things that are still in motion because of certain things that have happened that might then lead to different points in the story that I've already thought of, but yeah, it won't go exactly as I thought it might because of it, right? My story is at least a little bit more malleable because of that, because of the groundwork that I've already put in, through decisions that have already been seen and also unseen. But I can also understand if you don't do it like that and you go, okay, he's there. It's also like, it's probably going to be really hard to do this with this ambassador in this case and go like, oh yeah, the security is tight here because of course it would be, as long as you can rationalize it in the sense of like, this is an important person, why would it be so easy, I guess. Yeah. At least in this instance.
Barely even an inconvenience.
Indeed. Garabay's batting average is 50, I would imagine. Oh, because Ginny's is usually pretty good. Garabay's is what is, I don't even know what the averages is for like the batting average analogy, so I couldn't give you an accurate one, but it's low.
Yeah.
I can tell you this much, it's low.
your players more information about the world and shows that the call you're making isn't arbitrary. And using a no but, while almost certainly not Sir Mix-a-Lot's favorite option, allows you to throw your players a bone and give them a path forward, even if it isn't the path they were looking for. Now, not all of these quadrants are created equal. In fact, this grid might work better as a spectrum. I try to only use no and when I really have no other options, because that is the answer that truly shuts a player's idea down. But it is important that a DM have the ability to shut a player's idea down if they need to. No, a living creature does not count as an open container for the purposes of create or destroy water. No, we are not going to play Fantasy Herbalife Simulator, Dave. There's a reason that we're playing D&D, which has rules instead.
God, Dave, what do you keep doing to Ginny? What the fuck, man? What are you doing in there? My God.
Dave. Dave must be from Reddit.
Oh. No relation to Dave in our chat, of course.
Not that.
No, not that Dave. No. A battering average of 500 means the player can hit the ball 50% of the times they go to bat. Oh.
Okay.
Okay, so 50 is a pretty accurate stat then. Okay. 200 is what a team would want at least. Oh. So batting 1,000 is actually means like really good?
100%.
Okay. Okay. I always thought that it meant bad. Then again, I haven't really thought about it.
That's why people say gosh, I'm really batting 1,000 tonight.
Yeah.
Like, sarcastically.
Exactly. I guess that's why I associated with it being bad, because I guess I've never known the averages in that way. So I guess now I understand that they're actually saying that they're sarcastically doing well. I understand. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I get it. I am a human, I promise. What can I say? I want her to go back to Jester cosplay. She did do some good Jester cosplay, to be fair. It was great. Anyway.
Instead of just running around in the backyard with foam swords. We save that for Tuesday nights. While it's great to be receptive to player ideas and flexible with your expectations, the world is not always going to give your players what they want.
True.
Some things you've already set in stone, and others you are inventing on the spot. But either way, you are the arbiter here. The player's reality is created by whatever you say, including sometimes limitations. Have you ever had one of those moments as a player where you attempt something and fail, and only then do you learn essential information that definitely would have changed your plan, and that your character would have known? If a player suggests doing something stupid, there is a non-zero chance that they're not stupid, they just can't read your mind. Your players aren't actually standing in this palace ballroom, looking at the advisor and his wine goblet with their own eyes. They don't know if the goblet is sitting unattended on a side table, or if the advisor is nursing it, like me with a White Claw at a party where I don't know anyone. Don't take this can away from me. What'll I do with my hands then? You may be picking
Yes. But, I think, oh, fuck. Train left the station. It's gone. Never mind. Carry on.
picturing a manicured, formal ballroom lined with dozens of attentive guards, while your player is picturing a raucous party and 3 or 4 guards who are already a little drunk. That's why your player is asking about their idea, so you can tell them if it's viable. If you say no, that isn't you being a jerk or a bad DM, it's just you giving your player the information they need in order to play the game. You're not saying no.
My brain, yeah, it's come back. Okay. Sorry. I think it's something that we've done quite a lot, in fact, and I feel like it's there's no shame in it if you mess up a little bit. We've had it where we've done like very small retcons because of information that we haven't given when we needed to. There's been a couple of times, and I can't give you specifics in Devils and Dice. Oh no, I can. Devils and Dice. It was pretty early on when Brogan's character Muzzle was trying to get some drugs off of a drug dealing devil, and he and Boo had a misunderstanding in terms of the relationship that was there, and not necessarily in the way of like a description of something, but the misunderstanding did happen, and then once it was understood, the mistake, it it was taken back and the scene played out in the way that made more sense because of the relationship. And I'm sure there's going to be times in the future where I don't give as much information. Hell, I remember one right now where I feel like I didn't give enough information in an instance for Adam's character. I'm sorry, Boo's character of Adam. And he I then went, oh shit, sorry, you would know this as well from what you were looking at. It happens all the time, and that's fair enough. As long as you can take it back and make sure that, you know, the it's not catastrophic, I guess. Though usually, I mean, it can retcon as much as you want it to, by taking it back. But it's fine to say, shit, sorry, you actually would know this, right? No shame in admitting that, as a game master, because, again, not perfect, dude. Don't need to be. We're all here to enjoy the game together. And I think it's very important to, at least, I mean, obviously attempt to give them as much information as possible, but if you do miss something, it's alright. Don't worry about it. Not the end of the world.
No, that's impossible, you idiot. You're saying, no, that is not a realistic option, and here's why. If you're already a pro at reacting on your toes to player choices, you probably don't need this tool. Think of it as improvisational training wheels. If this little chart seems simple, that's because it is. But yes and is simple too, and unlike yes and, the YNAB grid, patent pending, recognizes that sometimes your role as Dungeon Master means saying no. And whether you're saying yes or no, a player's surprising idea is an opportunity to engage with and reward their creativity, and to provide them with more context, so that their next idea can be even better. Speaking of tools for Dungeon Masters, I made this!
Oh.
It's called the Game Master's Deck of Boons and Banes, and it's a set of 40 cards designed to help you reward or punish players with exciting narrative consequences.
Ooh.
It comes out October 1st, but pre-orders are open
This video is 6 months old.
now. This is being published by a real big boy publisher, Media Lab Books, which means it's going to be stocked in actual stores like Barnes & Noble and Target, which is
Congratulations. That's fucking awesome. Wow.
blowing my mind. The thing about traditional publishing is that pre-orders are huge. Those numbers tell stores whether or not the product will be popular, and that affects things like how they promote it and even where they shelve it. So if you want to do me a solid and you think it sounds exciting, please consider pre-ordering the deck. You can go to jinnyd.com/boonsandbanes to learn more and place your pre-order. And just FYI, those links are all for shoppers in the US or Canada, but I've been hearing from folks in other countries that some of their local bookstores and game stores also have this item available for pre-order. So just do a quick search and see. Okay, I'm sure everyone has left by now. That's the real reason I always carry a sword.
Sorry, Jenny.
So I'm never alone.
We're here till the end. We're always here until the end, unless we aren't. Yeah. Fuck. Good. It's a good video. That's really it. She did it. She cracked the code instantly because it's an easy code to crack. I mean, not to say that, you know, if you haven't ever thought of this, that you're lesser for it or anything. That's not the message that I'm trying to say. I'm just saying it's easy to understand and implement, right?
Yeah.
So please think of yes and no but. Please take the time when you're doing something. Ginny is in the top of her class along with Dungeon Dad. Yeah, she does good stuff. I don't think we have ever had any major contentions with her content, which is why we don't cover it as much as we used to, a little bit here and there.
I thought there had been like a couple iffy takes.
Yes, I think there was, but like nothing that we went, oh no, oh absolutely not, you know.
Yeah, it was takes of like, well, yeah, no, that's perfectly valid. I just do it a little differently.
Exactly. As far as I remember, yeah, that's it. And especially her clapping back at Garibay that one time. Whoo boy, good stuff. But yeah, good shit, Ginny, as usual. Thank you for that. Now I do have one other video that's talking about saying no. This one specifically is by Nerdarchy. And this was like a 7-year-old video, and we haven't covered Nerdarchy in forever, so we're kind of coming back to some of the people that we've done in the past half a decade, and coming back to see. So this one,
hey guys,
there we go, is called "Say No to Your D&D Players." Game Master Tips. Interesting enough. This is about a 20-minute video, so we'll see how much we get out of it that is different from what Ginny has already said, and what we've already said before Ginny said it. Don't forget. But no. I assume, again, that this is going to be extreme cases, and that's it. Right? Because it seems like, at least as we continue looking at stuff like this, and as I continue to think about it, I don't think there's anybody who's experienced enough that is going to say anything really that different. You know? Because I feel like we're all at least at that point of saying, yeah, you can pretty much go with whatever you need to. The only times where you say no is when you do that clarification of no but, or no and, as we've now said, or had Ginny say to us, which also applies in the no but column, really, to me, a lot of the times. But yeah, everybody's kind of just going for the, if you're with that guy from Reddit, you say, hey man, that's enough. You can go back to Reddit, I guess. So yeah. Someone making the slam dunk with the basket was right in front of them is a nice change of pace, at least. True. It's a rare one, because sometimes the basket is right there, and yet they still somehow manage to miss. It is a thing. Anyway, shall we see what Nerdarchy has to say?
Please.
Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, 4 nerds by nerds hanging out with
Nerdarchist Ted.
And today Nerdarchy gives you 3 reasons why you should say no to your players in your D&D game.
Okay.
We're going to start this video by thanking our sponsor, Easy Roller Dice. Whether it's your first set of dice or your 1 millionth set of dice, Easy Roller Dice.
Oh god, Aiden, look away. My god. More dice. Huh?
You know, like the gif of Vince McMahon?
Yes. Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
Eyes crossed.
Yep.
Like falls backwards in chair.
Exactly. Yes. 2009-ish intro. This was 7 years ago, so you know, I think this is like one of the ones they've had for a very long time. So,
dice rolling needs. Down in the description, you can find a link. EasyRollerDice.com/Nerdarchy, as well as a special one-time use promo code for a whopping 20% off. Go get yourself some Easy Roller Dice.
All right, so we're rolling out today with a video topic about saying no.
This is like the anti-Nerdarchy video topic.
We've done, a lot of different videos talking about this before, and we've said it many times. We are pro yes. We want you to say yes, and sometimes with that, you kind of have to stretch that out with the yes and the yes but.
So yeah, really, it's a newer concept to us as a group, but we've fully embraced it, and that is the idea of giving your players agency in your world.
And when players ask questions like, oh, can I do, or I want to do, we typically want to be able to say yes. But as I said, there's times that you have to stretch that out and have addendums to that. So we'll briefly go into what those things are. Clearly, yes, by itself, player asks for something, you get it. But the yes but and the yes and are things that you need to adjust. The yes but means, okay, you can do whatever it is that you're asking, but there's some tweaks, there's some things that need to go along with it, and you have to make those adjustments.
A better example of yes but would be, is when the players want to insert something into the scene. Maybe they're in a market, right? And there's an altercation and something has happened. And they want to know, hey, is there a fruit cart here? And you're like, yes, but it's surrounded by the enemy. Or, yes, but the fruit cart is actually a vegetable cart. Close enough for whatever reason why, or you're in a room and the players wants to know, are there any unattended weapons in this room? And you might say yes, but it is stuck in the wall. Or something along those lines. It's basically you're giving them what they want, but there's usually a complication. So there's also yes and.
Okay. I don't want it to have it play just too long without us commenting on anything, because
Well,
feels bad.
I would say that
Yeah.
so far he's just laying groundwork.
Yeah, exactly. I that's where we're at, and I don't want to, it's one of those things where it just feels bad for me to just watch the video without saying anything, because it's like, I agree. This is all true, unfortunately, but
one might even say yes.
And indeed. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff we already know. God, I hope it's not just the Ginny video, but longer, because the Ginny video was succinct. Yes, it came out later than this. Obviously, it's only 6 months old as opposed to 7 years. But also this format, I mean, this is what they do, and I appreciate their format because they're just kind of spitballing to each other most of the time, which is cool. And there's nothing wrong with either format, obviously, but Ginny's is very succinct and gets you the information very quickly. And I guess I prefer that in this instance because this is a very simple concept to really go over. But that all to say that I appreciate that they are going as into detail as they are so far. Looks really cozy where they are for some reason. Yeah, man. It's nice. It's a little part of the... I don't actually... Didn't they have like a shop for a while or something? I don't remember.
Oh, dude, I actually don't really follow Nerdarchy that closely.
Me either. But at least from what I remember, it was something like that. I don't know. Or maybe this was one of their houses? Basement chic. There you go, yeah. But maybe this is one of their houses that they just have the shelving and stuff for, which is fair. I need more shelves for shelving and storing things. And it looks nice when you store things on shelves. So, it's good.
Right. Same example of the marketplace, right? And the player wants to know, is there a fruit stand nearby? Yes, and would be like, yes, and you're standing right next to it. Or, are there any unattended weapons in this room? Yes, there's a full yes, and there's a full rack of them. If you wish to go and examine it or take one or do whatever it is you're trying to do.
So it's yes and really gives them not only you're saying yes, but it's more than what they were actually hoping for.
Like in your earlier example of, can you fly? Like, yes, and so can everyone else. Because in this chamber, there is no gravity. There's gravity and you pick it.
So that's the brief synopsis of those things. But there's times when players are going to ask for something, or you've offered player agency in your game, and they throw off all shackles and they give you a ridiculous request. When these kind of things come up, you have to just say no, and it's hard sometimes to do that in this this stretch, this realm of imagination where you want to give your players a bigger chunk of the world than they've had in different editions.
There's like 3 different areas that we're going to go over where we're going to kind of like move away from saying yes into, well, maybe you have to say no. But kind of like as a little bit of an addendum too, the 3 yeses is something that we've learned from watching other RPGers, but that's not really where it came from. Just so if you guys are interested and want to know, it's actually like an improv trick.
Right.
So the first area that we're going to discuss is balance. If saying yes is going to throw off the balance of the game completely and utterly, and in a way that it just doesn't make sense, this is a time when you might want to say no.
So,
okay, little game for you. Now that we know that the first one is balance, what are the other 2? Do you think? Like reasons.
I mean, I maintain setting
Mm-hmm.
and setting balance. I would hope not story.
No, I think that would be
That
a
would be a bit
huge
railroady.
blunder. Yeah, that would be an absolute
Yeah.
blunder. But I doubt that that's going to be the case.
Yeah, Nerdarchy is generally pretty good.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I agree with you on setting. So we have setting and balance, and then I'm thinking that it would probably be maybe something more meta in terms of like depriving people of their fun, I guess. You know, like not like
Yeah, you could do that.
like don't be a shit, basically.
Table fun.
Yeah. In the sense that you know, if somebody is constantly like just going against everybody's shit just because they can, you know,
Yeah.
shit like that. That's at least
They
where my
want to
mind.
bring Reddit to the real world.
Exactly. Yeah, the Redditor becomes real life.
Ugh.
That's the only other thing that I can think of at the moment. I don't know what else it could be at the moment, I guess. Was Garibay on Nerdarchy, or is that a fever dream I had? He was for a while.
briefly.
There's a video that we have yet to cover, which is him going on about 4E and defending it. So, and where he was on Nerdarchy. So one day we will get to that. I promise you. I've talked about it for, oh god, it's been years now. Oh no. But even so, we will, when we get another time just to talk about 4E, and say, hey man, 4E was fine. Stop.
Balance is going to do a couple of different things. Number one, is it throwing off the balance of the world? Is someone, oh, I want to play a god, or I want to be a character of a ridiculous, monstrous race and have all their abilities. It could throw off the balance of the world. It could throw off the balance of the power level at the table. Is someone's player character then more powerful than everyone else, and they become the spotlight, the center of the game, and everyone else just doesn't matter.
There's interestingly enough, actually, now that we're on this subject, there used to be, and you might remember this as well, Aiden, there used to be the fact that in 3.5, there were the monstrous races and other things that if you took them, you had a level adjustment.
Yes, I remember that.
So say you wanted
I always
to
wanted to play a monstrous
right
race.
Say you wanted to be like a werewolf. I think it was like a level adjustment of +3. So you were you were basically considered a 4th level character at that point, because of your abilities and such. And I'm not sure how it works in terms of leveling and such, in as you keep going, but I always found it to be a very unique kind of thing that they never brought back, as far as I'm aware. I wish Boo was here to confirm about 4th edition, though I don't know if he would know that either. Oh, you had to spend player levels to offset the adjustment. Thank you, Dave.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't.
No, you were the one who taught me about monstrous races.
Yeah.
You used to know this.
I used to know things. It's true.
Yeah.
But
so basically, if you were a 5th level party, for instance,
Yes.
could have like a 2nd
that's
level
right. Yes.
fighter werewolf thing.
That's right. Yeah, no, it was now it's all coming back to me now. Yes. Fuck. Now it's all coming back to me. I've lost some important information, I'm sure. But yes, so it was a very interesting thing that you could do, and I always wondered why it didn't necessarily come back. Because it feels like a very fun way to put that kind of stuff in for those people that were like, oh yeah, I just want to do, a different kind of campaign here and there. Like, not to say that you couldn't do it yourself, with how 5e is, or 5.5, depending on what you're playing at this point. Though, from what I hear, people aren't playing 5.5.
My campaign that starts tomorrow is a 5e game.
Yep. There you go. Another. And Brogan was saying that the game that he was playing is a 5e with little bits of the 5.5 stuff that is actually something that they want in 5e instead of using 5.5 and going backwards a little bit. So it's great. And there was the other thing that Boo said that somebody announced that they had like 19 million people on D&D Beyond, and 3 million of them had registered to play the new edition, which is like a lot. Yeah, it's a lot less. Oh, okay. If you had an adjustment of 3, you didn't get level 1 player abilities until level 4. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Okay.
That makes more sense, yeah. So yeah, I mean, it was a very interesting thing to do. I wish that it was more prevalent these days, and probably some people have made it so that you can do it for 5. Not sure. Somebody else has put in the work, more than likely, though. Yes, and you can play a god, but the powers of gods come from the faith of their believers, and you're the only one that believes in yourself. There you go. Yes. Oh my god, Garibay not being in a car, the world will blow up. You could always play Exalted. Yes, there was also Exalted as well. But Exalted levels were after the fact, I thought. I have the Book of Exalted Deeds, and it's been a hot minute since I've read it. But I thought that was also the case. Anyway, just an interesting...
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I remember I played an Exalted class because I went from Ranger to Deepwood Sniper for my first ever character.
Oh, but that's not Exalted, that's the what was it called?
Oh, Prestige.
Yes, Prestige class. Yes, back when we had those. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I meant the game Exalted. Oh, excuse me. Right, to be a god. I understand. But yes.
God, do you remember all the things D&D is taken away from us?
I do. And I even have records of that with the books in my possession. Oh, but they still exist. They do still exist. And it is good. Anyway.
That kind of breaks a number of things and makes it less fun for everyone else. The spirit of the theme of the game goes in many different directions, and if you're playing a gritty game, some of the options that are quite simple, like the Outlander always being able to find food, would break the synopsis of the game, where...
we're talking about 5, because that's the Outlander background. Okay, wait a minute. Now I need to listen to this.
And if you're playing a gritty game, some of the options that are quite simple, like the Outlander always being able to find food, would break the synopsis of the game, where if you've got a food shortage as a problem, that goes against it. So you would have to replace that with something else. And someone's saying, "Oh, but this is what I get." You have to say no. That doesn't offer the challenges or the theme of the game that I'm actually looking to create.
Yeah, it becomes
I think the easiest way for you to say no, but do something, I will give you something else in exchange, is during that first initial character creation, if it's incongruous with what you're setting up. Like, it's the first instance where you'll have it happen, and you might not even realize that that's the case, that you're doing it necessarily in the same way as, like, a yes and kind of thing, because it's just like, well, as the example has been pointed out, if you're always able to feed everybody whenever you're outside, what's the point of there being, scarcity in the resources of food? And then we have said stuff about Sentinel and the Lucky Feet, in the sense of, like, most of the time, a lot of the time at least, the Lucky Feet is something that I don't usually like. And even it's just one of those things of just, Well, sometimes you just say, "Nah, I'm good. Actually, I'll just re-roll that." And it's like, okay, but okay,
Yes, but actually no.
right? Exactly. It's a weird one. And then Sentinel, it goes through the things like disengage, which it's like, oh, okay, so you're just taking away somebody's like ability that they can do sometimes, especially for like rogues a lot of the time, where they can disengage for free because of their
Bonus action.
yeah, their free bonus action that they can get from their abilities. So it's just like, well, that just feels like you're taking something away and punishing somebody for having something that will go and or that they're using to try to do a certain play style, right? Which is why I don't usually like it being put into games. And hell, I remember in Critical Role, back when I used to watch that, watching Matt's face every time somebody said Sentinel, and he just went, "Oh,
campaign 1.
yeah, oh yeah, that's a thing." Because nobody remembers that that's a thing until it's really useful for the player in that one instance. So yeah, I don't know.
I got to take part in a campaign that had that basically happen, but it was Tunnel Fighter.
What's Tunnel Fighter?
Basically Sentinel.
Oh, I see. Unfortunate.
Let me get you. Let me put down Belatra and let me actually get you.
Fuck. It's always Belatro.
Dude, okay. I had one run today. I was playing on the Anaglyph deck, which gives you a free double tag every like set of it gives you a free double tag once you successfully complete the ante.
Okay.
And I saved those up all game through like 7 antes.
Yeah.
And then I had also managed to get like a few other double tags through like selling certain jokers and stuff like that, or like skipping lines, whatever. Long story short, I had 12 double tags.
Mm-hmm.
And then I encountered a negative, like, oh, skip this, like, round and get a negative joker in the shop. And I clicked it. And then I had 13 negative jokers, which is 18 total jokers, and it was beautiful.
Nice.
I was like, move over, fentanyl.
Shut up. God. I have yet to touch that game or buy it because I know that I will also do the same thing.
As a bonus action, you can enter defensive stance that lasts until the start of your next turn. While in your defensive stance, you can make opportunity attacks without using your reaction. You can use your reaction to make a melee attack against a creature that moves more than 5 feet while within your reach.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So you go up to a crowd of enemies and you set that stance, and then you hit every one of them if they have the gall to move.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yikes. Anyway. Things that are implemented. Hey Aiden, I learned about plush, chocolate, and chia golems from Dungeon Dad. If you want to throw something weird at your friends, check these out. Or those out. There you go.
Chia golem.
I guess. Yeah.
I really like the idea of a chia golem.
Chia.
Yeah, dude.
Remember those days? Lots of fucking commercials of that shit.
Oh, God, I remember so many of those commercials.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember Shrek?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
The Shrek chia?
Yeah, I do, yeah. You remember the Scooby-Doo one?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. Good stuff.
different kind of game, and it's like instead of, you might change it where before you could gather food for you and your party, but now it's more like a no, but you can find enough just for yourself, or just for yourself and one other person, or like you said, you might alter it and give them a different ability entirely, because it doesn't make sense if you're playing a gritty survivalist style game.
Yeah, post-apocalyptic theme sometimes has that, and that's tied into the theme of the game.
Yeah.
It's a challenge, and it's something that you're expected to overcome, and if it's never a problem for you, then it doesn't fit.
Now, granted, if you are saying no to your players when it's like an alteration to something core to the game, this is something that you would want to bring up in a session 0, and this way everyone has the same expectations.
Yes.
The other thing is, if you're playing in a low magic world and you've given your players some agency to do some things and edit scenes, they can't then go and introduce a ton of really high fantasy, high magic stuff into that scene, because it just breaks the theme of your setting.
Right.
And then the other thing is, if you're playing a style of game and you've all kind of agreed on this style, and this speaks a little bit more to it's a combined spirit and theme together, and that is, if you're playing a like real lighthearted, whimsical game, you're not going to want someone to interject a real gritty, kind of hard-boiled character into that, because it doesn't jive with what's going on with the rest of the game.
Right.
And at the same time, you probably wouldn't want to do the same thing with a gritty game. You wouldn't want them to introduce a really silly character that isn't going to make sense.
I want to take this moment to express my appreciation that he described it as a lighthearted, whimsical game instead of beer and pretzels.
Yes. Oh, yeah, true. Man, it's been nice that we haven't heard beer and pretzels for a very long time.
Mm.
It used to plague us long ago, in the bad days.
If you're running like Warhammer and it's like a dark, gritty fantasy, you're not going to want a character that's better suited to Alice in Wonderland in that game. So it's just not going to...
But you could make one that's like sort of like that, but fucked up. That would be sick. Like, instead of you have okay, all right, hold on. I can workshop this. Okay. So
Standing by, awaiting riffing.
So, what you can do is introduce a cultist of Slanesh, who is utilizing psycho drugs and such to, who is envisioning the battlefield in such a way that it is like Alice in Wonderland, and they're walking along this bloodied kind of battlefield with their fucking chain axe, swinging it around, singing like nursery rhyme kind of things, and like taking parts of, like picking up the decapitated skull of their enemies and drinking the blood from it and saying it's tea time and such, like you can do so much with that. I mean, obviously it's not necessarily getting a player in that, but you could have the player be that too. That's the thing. You could create that if you're doing something like Black Crusade. Yeah. You could literally make the Alice in Wonderland entire cast as all of the players and everything, and it's just because they're in that psychosis of being under Slanesh, and going into excess with drugs and all of that kind of shit, which would be really cool, actually. And I've kind of psyched myself up in this idea. It's great. I think Alice in Wonderland is kind of fucked up by default. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Well, there's a reason why the American McGee fucking Alice and Alice Madness Returns and then the canceled third one was actually like a pretty good concept. So yeah.
Going to make sense. And also when you're talking about, when the players are trying to do certain things, finding a magic mushroom in a high fantasy game absolutely could definitely see that happening. But if you're doing that in a darker game, grittier game, low magic game, yeah, they're not going to be able to introduce things like that, or if they want to introduce some certain kinds of NPCs, which I'm usually welcome with in my game, but those NPCs would have to make sense for the type of game you're running.
Right, exactly. Okay.
So now I'm envisioning the Cheshire Cat and Power Armor.
Yeah,
fuck
like
yeah.
that wouldn't work. They're two things that probably should not go together.
So the last thing on this point is consistency, and
Hey, I love
when
that
you were
word.
speaking about the players wanting to insert a high magic item or scene into the game, that breaks the idea of what the game is. You have to make sure that everything that you do is consistent with the theme of the game, with the world that you're playing in, and the flow of magic and the gods, so that everything is all a nice puzzle piece that fits within the world, as opposed to, oh well, this is all circles and I want to be a square.
Now let's go into some examples that we've seen in our own
Ooh.
games.
Well, the concept of giving characters player agency goes back a ways. It's only become more so since we've actually started doing Nerdarchy, and we've used this example a number of times to highlight different things. But a player in one of my games where we have a kind of a low magic world with a high magic past, but the player was inspired by like Warhammer 40K, and he wanted to essentially create a legion of 100 suits of this, for lack of a better word, power armor that wouldn't require attunement, because it would go into battle, being operated by a soldier, and should that soldier be damaged, it would automatically, damaged enough that they were incapacitated, they would be teleported back to town and have another soldier ready and waiting to then get teleported into the suit to be able to then continue fighting. I was talking about...
Is that like a combination of Necron and Space Marine in a way?
So I was thinking Necron and Thousand Suns.
Yeah, I was thinking Thousand Suns as well, but yeah, I guess only because they didn't get dusted, I suppose, is why my brain didn't go immediately there. But yeah. Okay. Yeah, neat, but wouldn't necessarily work, I guess.
Linking to the other suits and the ability to heal and all these things.
Sealed environments.
Sealed environments, to their, poison wouldn't really affect, or a poison gas wouldn't affect them. And this was like blowing my mind. Like I literally reeled back as I'm like, I don't even know how to respond to this to this player.
A little bit like how this transpired in our game. One, so the player wants to create essentially an army of artifacts, and pitches it to the town, to the council, and they're like, I don't actually believe you can do this, or this can be done. And he kind of gets shut down, and then Ted kind of no-butted him later on, because he said he could do the thing, he was later captured and tortured for information on how to do the thing. But because he didn't actually know how to do it, and it couldn't really be done, he's kind of being tortured for nothing. So, incorporated and baked back into the story.
I guess part of me is like, is that kind of like a punishment for him expressing the want to do that? I guess I would need to know if he was okay with that kind of transpiring, being utilized as a point of being tortured, like having his character be tortured and everything. Because it makes sense as a consequence, right? You say that you can do this incredibly powerful magical thing, but you really can't, and so you're taken to try to find that information. That makes sense to me, so I don't think that it's necessarily a bad thing to put into place. I'm just wondering. I guess I will give them the good faith that is not what it was meant to be, of a punishment, right? Though it's weird to me because of the response, I guess.
Yeah, right.
of like being flabbergasted and
So-
not, and then just saying, no, your character is going to be punished for this.
Yeah, for just riffing.
Exactly. I have an idea, town. You don't believe that I can do this, fair enough. But then, yeah, it does sound like a little bit of a no and get fucked. Yes, exactly. It does kind of feel that way to me. Maybe there's more context here in the video that we'll get to, but it immediately struck a chord of like, that feels unfair. Weirdly. Like, yes, having somebody try to get that information and torture somebody for that information makes sense, like I said, but it's weird. Because if everybody knows that you can't do that, then why would somebody believe that they could? You know? Because that's what it sounds like.
Why isn't both the DM and the people in the town going, what?
Yeah.
Okay, no.
Like, just put it aside as if he was a crazy person and just don't give it the time of day, I guess. And instead of having somebody else say, oh, yeah, you can do this. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then try to get that information. Like, that doesn't make sense to me unless the other person doesn't understand how the world works, I guess. Like, in the sense of the character in the story. But then again, I don't know. I guess I need more context, really.
But, you know, that was well beyond the scope of the game we're playing. Later in the same game, recently, you gave us some agency when we found this like temple of the blood cultists, and like we were like, what's in here? And our buddy Mark is like, there's a treasure chest full of treasure, right? And like, see that breaks the story, because in the sense that it doesn't add anything beneficial to the story or interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It is just kind of like gaming the system, taking advantage of the ability to use agency. Now, granted, it was kind of tongue-in-cheek the way he said it, but part of it, we know him, part of it was serious. And, you know, and that's fine, but then that's an instance where the GM goes, oh, well, the player's not adding anything to the story. So, you know, so he's going to nix that, or she's going to nix that, because it's not beneficial. You know, saying yes is about adding to the story, making it better, you know, improving the experience for everyone, not about just like trying to powermonger for one particular character or one particular circumstance.
Now, in that instance, you know, I said no without actually really giving it a whole lot of thought. As typically when I do agency, I want people to come up with something interesting. Now, had I said, oh, well, yeah, there's a treasure chest, and it could have had, you guys are like 15th, 16th level, I could have thrown a treasure chest and it had 500 gold pieces in it and a handful of gems, and it wouldn't have been that big of a deal.
Yeah.
So I did squash it before I had any thought, because it wasn't going into what was in my mind at the time. But there wasn't I did so as a DM, and I made a poor choice to quash that, because that does put out the thought of, well, there's a desire on the case of the player for furthering his own goals. But at the same time, because typically we want, when we give out agency, for players to, as you said, progress the story, not just their own desires, I squashed it without thinking.
Yeah, I was gonna say, okay, so he says that that's a mistake. Fair enough. But the thing that I'm wondering about is, how is having that be a part of the story, how would that not be the interesting and furthering of the story potentially, because the character could then use that money to then further the story potentially, right? Which I guess at the end of the day, he does recognize that this was like just a kind of immediate a bad thing to immediately squash down. But yeah, I don't know, the terms interesting for the story and giving agency, these are kind of thrown in there that I'm like, interesting in terms of what you think is interesting for the story, I guess. I don't know. Something isn't meshing with me here. And I don't know exactly how to phrase it, because something doesn't feel right.
So I'm confused what he means by like just quashing it outright. Like what? Perhaps I missed it. What did he do to quote unquote quash it?
He just said no. There isn't treasure in this room.
That sounds like you're just describing the scene.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I'm confused, like, because he's saying, maybe I need to listen to it again. I'm very confused. Yeah, because that's what it sounded like to me. But then they're going on about it as if it's something bigger than that, and I'm confused.
Like if, how would I put this?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I'm actually kind of two minds on this.
Yeah.
Because, like, if a player walks into a kitchen,
yeah,
and sees a pot over a fire, and the player asks, "Is there soup in the pot?"
Right.
Then part of me says, like, if the DM says, "No, there's not soup in the pot, it's actually porridge."
Sure.
Then that's just the DM, like, describing the scene.
Yeah.
However, what necessarily changes? How does it make the game better to say, no, it's this, actually? You can't have the thing you wanted.
Right.
Now, of course, that's not just like giving players treasure for the fuck of it.
No.
That, like, soup is not treasure, although
to a starving man.
But like, I don't understand how telling your players no, there's not a game-changing amount of wealth in this room. I don't understand how that's bad.
Yeah, I don't. I assume the point is that it was bad to just immediately say no to it without giving it any thought. I think that's the point. But I also don't. We got to listen to it again before I can really, because I'm confused. I'm very confused.
Oh, without actually.
Oh, okay, it's before that.
The system taking advantage of the ability to use agency. Now, granted, it was kind of
okay. So it's before that too. It was a whole thing. My goodness.
The scope of the game we're playing, where this can be done, and kind of gets shut down. And then Ted kind of no-butted him later on.
Oh,
because he said he
man.
could do the thing, he was later captured. So, like, yeah, incorporated and baked back into the story.
Okay.
But, that was well beyond the scope of the game we're playing. Later in the same game, more recently, you gave us some agency when we found this, like, temple of the blood cultists, and, like, we were like, what's in here? And our buddy Mark...
Okay, so now I'm getting it more. So they are saying gives agency, and that means that he said, when they found this temple, what is in here, and giving that as something that the players themselves can then populate. So that's the premise. And then we have this person coming in and saying, there's a treasure chest.
Mark is like, there's a treasure chest full of treasure, right? And, like, see, that breaks the story, because in the sense that it doesn't add anything beneficial to the story or interesting. It is just kind of like gaming the system, taking advantage of the ability to use agency. Now, granted, it was kind of tongue-in-cheek the way he said it, but part of it, we know him, part of it was serious. And, and that's fine, but then...
So the thought now is that doing that is taking advantage of this good-hearted gesture, and kind of gaming it and giving it more of a personal goal rather than something interesting for the story, which immediately, again, I ask, how is having more treasure not going to be something that leads to something that's more interesting for the story? Because the personal goal of the player could still coincide with the goals of the character in getting more money to then further themselves, right? So I don't see why that would be. And then he will go on to say, I said no to it without giving it much thought, which is not great. If I had given you some gold here, it wouldn't have done anything really to the story, or to be against what's going on in that instance. Which I agree with. That wouldn't have been much of anything that was incongruous with the story that was being told, as far as I'm aware. But I think it's Dave and Ted, right? So Dave, I think, said that it's kind of against what was going on in the story here. So I need to hear it again. I apologize. I'm really trying to get this.
Yeah, I'm confused as well.
Yeah.
It's full of treasure, right? And like, see, that breaks the story, because in the sense that it doesn't add anything beneficial to the story or interesting.
So it breaks the story because it's not adding anything beneficial or interesting to it.
Maybe they were weren't they in like a temple though?
Yeah, they were in a temple. They had found a temple,
so it
and
might make sense for there to be a room with treasure.
Exactly. So I don't. So the importance of it being interesting and beneficial to the story is being focused on here, which I'm like, how is this not going to do that? I don't understand why that would be the case in this instance. It's not going to necessarily do that in any way. And that's what Ted goes on to say, that it would have been fine. So I don't understand this initial assertion. But I guess we'll continue from here, because that's my understanding so far.
It is just kind of like gaming the system, taking advantage of the ability to use agency. Now, granted, it was kind of tongue-in-cheek the way he said it, but part of it, we know him, part of it was serious. And
right.
And that's fine, but then that's an instance where the GM goes, "Oh, well, the player's not adding anything to the story." So
my question to you is, why would this not, like, the ultimate thing here is the story only the thing that the GM is telling, and not the experience that the players are deriving from it as well? In the sense of, like, it feels a little antithetical to the way that I do things, right? Which is why I take issue with it, because it's like, well, you guys as the characters are the ones who are driving the story forward. Yes, I do have a story, but you are the ones who are going to flesh it out and actually, like, do the things that lead you to point B from point A, right? And whether or not you necessarily are, going straight from A to B isn't going to affect the actual story. So I don't see, again, it makes sense, at least logically to me, that this would be something that could be in the game. But if, when you give agency, as you say, when you give agency, you're saying, okay, add something interesting to the story that is not something that is purely beneficial. If that's what you mean, that seems strange to me. Why would you give me the option? I guess. I don't understand the rule that I'm supposed to be following when you give me the opportunity to put anything in the room.
Yeah, so I don't know. I feel I would have to know more about the background of this situation in order to make a call.
I think so too.
I keep waiting for things to, like, clarify themselves. Like,
it's too vague. It's too vague.
Exactly.
But my gut reaction is just like, why is this a problem? I guess,
Like, it's very clear they're talking about someone specifically,
right?
Because they're like, "Oh, we know him," but like,
yeah.
And then he looks at the other co-host and goes, "Yeah, there's a little truth," and like the other guy nods. Like, they're talking about someone specific and how someone is. Because of that, I don't feel like I can weigh in or even, like, gain anything from this.
Yeah, it's an example that isn't really, weirdly, it isn't meant for us as viewers. which is strange to put in your video. You know, without explaining it to a degree that we could understand, at least, right? Because if they had started with, okay, Mark's this guy that whenever we give him the agency, he always tries to put some benefit before himself, so that he can always be, you know, more powerful or more wealthy or something. Like, this is always what happens, and he says it jokingly, but we know, I mean, and they do say that, he says it jokingly, but we know there was a little truth in there, and he does this every time, you know? Then I would have at least more context, and I could go, okay, so he's just known for taking advantage of the system. That's it. Like, they are saying that as well, but not really. Like, they aren't definitive about it, you know? They're just saying this is an example of that potentially happening, which I'm like, so is that what he does every time? Why do you give him the ability to? You know? That's just immediately where I go with it, if that's supposed to be the case. See you, Dave. Have a good game on Sunday then. Good rests and such. But so yeah, I'm very confused about this. And then we get to this point.
You know, so he's going to, he's going to nix that, or she's going to nix that, because it's not beneficial. You know, saying
again, using these words of beneficial and all of that kind of stuff, I'm confused as to how it can't be beneficial to the story. Because you're trying to make it more of a general claim, in the sense of you're seeing this happen, so you should make it so that they don't do that by nixing it, so it's not, because it's not beneficial to your story. And it's like, so if they're purely doing it for an advantage for themselves, then I suppose it really depends on their intention for it, right? Because, again, if I'm to believe that Mark is all about just furthering himself and his character only, I guess, but if I don't want to judge Mark from the one example that you've given me, so what if Mark
may be a nice guy,
right?
I'm like Dave.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Not our as your DM.
No,
Dave.
not Dave.
Sorry, DM Dave. Not as your GM, Dave.
Right. But like, again, yeah. What if the intention later down the road was to use that to then further the character and further the story? What if that's the case?
What if he wanted to use that extra money to donate, huh?
Right, exactly. Like, I don't know enough about this, and you can't really use it as an example by saying these vagaries and then saying it's not beneficial to the story. Because I don't even know where we are. So you gotta do more with this. And then we get to Ted saying, well, no, I shouldn't have done that. It would have been fine. And I'm like, yeah, it would have been. I guess, yeah. Sure.
Yes, is about adding to the story, making it better.
Again, sorry, I keep adding to the story and making it better. How could it not? I'm not given a sufficient reason as to this not benefiting the story. Because again, I see it as a player trying to advance themselves, to better themselves for the story. And not necessarily as a power game kind of thing. And I know this is coming, like, usually the people are like, don't power game, don't, min-max, all that kind of stuff. But, I mean, I think we've all said, no, it's fine, because you can account for that, and you can kind of work around that. That's fine. I don't see why it's purely a problem. But again, is that what we're going for? Because he wanted to make himself even better by, like, min-maxing because of the wealth? That's the problem?
Level advancement is a crime in D&D.
Right, exactly. I don't know.
We never level up.
It's very baffling to me, because the more that I try to understand it, the more that I'm like, this is so bad for an example.
It'll be a cold day in hell before I let you guys level up or get any loot.
improving the experience for everyone, not about just like trying to powermonger for one particular character or one particular circumstance.
So what if because he said that though, and as Ted is going to point out, what if he said that there was like, what if his intention was to give everybody treasure? That was the intent. We all get it. We're a party. We're going into this place. We're going to get money together. You know? Like, that feels like what it could be, because why would he just make it so that only the one guy gets it? Like, as a DM. You know? How could you...
Maybe he walked into the room alone.
I would love to have known that.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they phrased it in such a way that it seemed like it was open to everybody. I don't know.
Now, in that instance, you know, I said no without actually really giving it a whole lot of thought.
Right.
As typically when I do agency, I want people to come up with something interesting. Now, had I said, "Oh, well, yeah, there's a..."
Oh, maybe it's just because walking into a room and asking, "Is there treasure?" isn't interesting enough.
Which I'm like, okay. So do I have to be really grand about every fucking room that you give me agency for?
You have to be really verbose.
Yeah, exactly. Which I'm like, okay, so I'm beholden to your arbitrariness at that point. What you find interesting.
Well, it's his game.
Well, right, exactly, right? I'm just like, okay, well, I'm not gonna do that then. You just tell me what's in the room. Because if I can't do it in the way that you deem necessary, what am I supposed to do here, you know? but I will say, again, he did say that this was a mistake, because it could have been a different way. Which I'm like, good, great, because I agree. Yeah, it doesn't seem like this was... This is an instance that this applies to. So why are you framing it that way beforehand? But maybe that's just because, you know, the one guy has that as the opinion, and the other guy is trying to dissuade him from that. I'm not sure. It's just a bad example, really. At the end of the day, player, many gold bars are inside, but only for me. That's right. And he takes the power stance immediately.
Treasure chest, and it could have had... you guys are like 15th, 16th level. I could have thrown a treasure chest and it had 500 gold pieces in it and a handful of gems, and it wouldn't have been that big of a deal. So, and I did squash it before I had any thought, because it wasn't going into what was in my mind at the time. But there wasn't real there. I did so as a DM, and I made a poor choice to quash that, because that does put out the thought of, well, there's a desire on the case of the player for furthering his own goals. But at the same time, because typically we want, when we give out agency, for players to, as you said, progress the story, not just their own desires, I squashed it without thinking.
Right, and they're not mutually exclusive, those two things, of furthering the story and also like doing their own ambition. That is something that could happen. So I'm glad again that you had the realization that it was a bad idea, that it was a poor thing on your part for what you're trying to go for. I just hope that in future that it has made it so that you can think that is the case for these kinds of things, I guess. Because it doesn't seem like anything to me that you would absolutely squash, or have the opinion that it isn't interesting and wouldn't further the story.
Maybe this is just me being a bad DM, which, you know, the Ginny D video has assured me that.
Right.
But this kind of seems like a bit of a nothing burger situation.
It really does. Yeah.
It is a very minor misstep of like, yeah, you said no to your player without thought would be my takeaway. Like, if you tell your players no, you should have a good reason why.
Yes, exactly.
But like, oh yeah, no, I didn't change the I didn't change the world and the setting to benefit my players, I just said no. Like doesn't exactly seem like the worst.
Yeah, this doesn't really fit with the point that they were going for. As far as I'm concerned, it is just like well, okay, we'll move on here. I guess we could have cut this, but whatever. Maybe come up with a better example, but okay.
Good. Yeah. Happy, good learning moment, I guess.
I suppose. Now that we've had to
happy-
dissect it.
Yeah. Happy to hear that you are quote unquote now a better DM than you were before. I would say that this is a situation that does not reflect like making this I'll call it a misstep, which is honestly feels like too big of a word for it to use. But like I wouldn't say that this necessarily reflects upon your quality as a DM to begin with.
I wouldn't say so. Though I am questioning your judgment on what is interesting. Because you're using that word a lot. And I'm scared about that word. I don't know. Maybe the players have more of an understanding of the game that they're playing because of what they set forth, I guess, and the conversations and the relationship that they have. When it comes to like using this agency that they keep talking about. That could very well be the case. So I reserve my judgment of it, but I am a little skeeved out. That's all.
Now, that being said, too, like a more interesting thing for the player to introduce, and like this is something.
Well,
interesting.
Well, I'm not happy. Do better, DM guy. Do better. Thank you. Yes, Pizza Funk. Sorry. Yes, that's right. That's the takeaway. Oh, welcome to Nothing Burger, home of the Nothing Burger. All right, I do want to hear what he has to say about this because
squashed it without thinking.
Now, that being said, too, like a more interesting thing for the player to introduce, and like this is something to think about, like in your own games, and if you can come up with cool things to add into the game, your DM is going to trust you more with letting you almost co-DM from the player side a little bit sometimes. And so had the same player been like, yes, there's a chest, and I open it, and a fire elemental comes streaming out of it. Can I make a dex save to get out of the way? Like, then, like, you've just inserted an enemy that you have to fight. You might have just taken damage. Yeah, you've given something to DM to kind of like sink his hooks into and be like, oh yeah, this is something I can definitely work with.
Okay. Now I'm all for suggestions of what's in a scene. But I'm not going to look for players to put something in their way that is that detrimental, I guess.
My games are not like that freeform.
Yeah.
I'm sure when I get to the point where I have played as much D&D as Nerdarchy has, I may be open to things like that.
Sure.
But like if a player says, "Oh, I walk into the room and I find a treasure chest, and oh, there's a trap," I'm going to go, "What the fuck? Are we playing your game or mine?"
Yeah. Like, and obviously they have this system in place of they give agency to players so that they can put something into the world. I get that. That's fine. It reminds me of, not in the same way, because at least Fate is a little different here, where they have the reasoning at least behind it, right? Where you put something into the world that somebody can reasonably have right there, which is something that we do anyway a lot of the time whenever I've described a scene and somebody says, "Oh, is this in that scene then?" And I go, "Oh yeah, it would be, wouldn't it?" So yeah, it's there. Yeah, for sure. Stuff like that, that's fine. Because you're adding to the scene because of a detail that makes sense and I would have missed in my description, I suppose. But it's not something that it's not like, oh yeah, you guys are out in front of a bank and people are walking, to and fro, and you guys are currently, here to scope it out. And the other guy says, oh yeah, and so there's
Is there
like
a man in a business suit in front of the bank?
right, and I go, oh yeah, absolutely, and then another guy goes, oh yeah, and there's like a secret entrance right on the other side, right?
Yeah.
And I go, what?
Yeah, there's an employee with like a servant's platter, and they're handing out stacks of money to people as they pass by.
And I go, what? Or oh yeah, and like and the cops are here right now.
No.
Because they're actually like surveilling the place. And they're right there, and you can see them. I'm like,
Oh,
why?
oh yeah. My players are CEOs. They what's a few thousand extra dollars? Who cares? I could have done it,
Right.
but I said no.
Right, exactly. So I'm just like, yeah, in those kinds of instances, I feel like I would be acting the same way as you, of like, oh, okay, well, I was setting the scene here for some stuff, but why have you introduced this? You want to deal with that, I see, but like that's not something that all of us want to deal with necessarily. Of like this fire elemental in a chest,
No.
It's like, what? Why did you force a combat upon everybody? Like, especially in this kind of instance, wouldn't it be a group kind of decision? Because if you're giving the players with an S, the agency, to put something in the scene, why wouldn't they all come to an agreement at least? Or at least you would let them have that moment to discuss things and not have one person be the only person. Like if they say something and everybody goes, "Oh yeah, let's have that," then absolutely go for it. But if one person says something and everybody goes, "Huh?" and then you put it in there, it's like, I don't think so. But okay. Anyway, we continue.
And you create an interesting scenario to add to the game.
And
And also, what if I find it interesting but nobody else does? What about that? What if you find it interesting and nobody else does? Just like with the treasure chest. What if I think it's going to be interesting because I know that I can do a bunch of shit with it, with the money that might be inside, and then you don't think that that's true, and then you say no.
when this kind of happens, it makes things easier on the DM. It sometimes removes the burden of thought, or the burden of having to come up with what's next. Yeah, some of your fellow players might have a problem when it's like, oh yeah, we crossed this line and a pit fiend shows up. Well, holy crap! Now we gotta go fight this enemy that is not going to provide any kind of reward, because when you kill a demon, they just pop and they don't drop their flaming whip and their lightning longsword at your feet.
As a player,
Okay, so sorry. Okay, so some of your players might have a problem with it. Fuck them. Some of your fellow players might not like it. Whatever.
That's a no and fuck you situation.
Yeah.
Roll initiative, bitch.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. I completely forgot. I have a soda in the freezer. I need to go grab it.
Yeah, go. Oh no. Yeah, I don't know. We're slipping into a weird place here now. I'm confused. And to be fair, this is a very old video, I will say. So potentially, this is no longer the opinion anymore. But I don't know.
When we started the podcast, I stuck a soda in the freezer and set a 20-minute timer on my watch.
Yeah.
20 minutes came and went because I was playing Balatro.
Oh, Timothy wants to know what soda is it?
It is one of the low-carb monsters. I really like the taste of those. The sky blue, robin's egg blue monsters.
Okay. I've not had one of those.
They're really good. Also, even though it's not completely frozen, when I took it out of the freezer, it was like I squeezed the can a little,
Yeah.
and it was still really liquid. But like, liquids do this fucky thing with pressure and temperature where they can like stay liquid even though they're below their freezing point.
Oh yeah.
But then once you like open up the can, it turns solid, and mine has turned solid.
Oh,
Yeah. So now
edge.
I've got a monster slushy.
Oh, that's kind of cool though.
It is, except for the fact that the slushy portion of it doesn't fall out through like the hole very easy.
Oh yeah, you need to get one of those can openers that just cuts the top off.
Yeah, no, I'm going to get my can opener
Well,
and a mug.
There we go. Well, hey. So they only want to fight it if it drops a reward. Are these guys playing with Chara? I never had Monster. It's all right. Yeah, I've never had an actual monster. I've only had the coffee monsters. And those now.
Yeah, I remember buying you those coffee.
Yeah, you fucker. I haven't had one in a very long time.
Like, the first one is free.
Yes, yeah, I haven't had one in a very long time, but there was a time where I was getting those as much as I fucking could. It was a problem. These days, I only stick to the LaCroix, because I
drink mainly LaCroix.
Yeah.
Although I have noticed that I refused to get bottled water for a while because I was like, I have a sink.
Oh yeah.
I'll just drink tap.
Yeah.
The tap water is free. Well, it's not free,
No.
but like free enough.
Right, I get you.
And I never drank any water from my sink. I would drink LaCroix.
Yeah.
But there's something about like bottled water that like you know how much bottled water I drank in college.
Yes.
I drank like all the fucking time.
Yeah.
And I'm like that still now. But I can't do tap for some reason.
That's fair.
I wish I could unlock the ability.
Something. Go on.
But just like there is something about when I don't have, or when tap water is my only option.
Yeah.
I just go, well, time to not drink anything, I guess.
Yeah. So I used to be that way as well, actually, a little bit. But what happened with me, and I don't know if it's something that you can do in your current setup, but I bought a water filter, and put it and installed it for my sink. And since then, it's been pretty good in the sense of like I fill this water bottle most of the time. Now that I've got a bunch of LaCroix, I've gotten more like into drinking LaCroix, unfortunately. So I haven't been drinking as much water. But
yeah, LaCroix is pretty expensive.
Yeah, it is. But it's so good though. The actual filter on it has improved my consumption of the water a lot, and I use it for my tea and everything, and in my water bottle. Like I just take it from my water bottle and put it in my kettle, my electric kettle to boil. That's why I always have the sound of the electric kettle here and there during the streams and such. But it's been better, one, for taking away the hardness of the water, and two, it filters a bunch of shit out, so it's nice.
So here's the thing.
Yeah.
My disgust for tap has absolutely nothing to do with the taste. Like,
oh no, of course,
tap water tastes exactly the same as my regular water.
Yeah.
I don't. It sounds bougie, but I don't desire it, and I don't know why.
Okay. Yeah, it wasn't in a thing of taste. My suggestion, it was just in a sense that maybe it just changes it in your mind. Maybe. But I fair enough. I don't know.
What is your favorite brand of seltzer? Is it LaCroix?
It's the only one that I've really gotten into, so yeah.
Oh, dude, I like Bubbly.
Bubbly, okay.
Bubbly.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've not actually had it, but now that I've been into LaCroix, I might go for it.
They make a really good blackberry seltzer.
Ooh, okay.
What is your favorite flavor of LaCroix?
Okay, so I liked it. It hasn't been okay. So I have 4. Yeah. Key lime.
Hold on. Have not had it. BRB.
Okay. Tap water. All it costs is a kidney stone. That's why I have a filter on it to get some of that shit out of my system, or out of the water so it doesn't enter my system. A&W vanilla cream soda today. Nice. There you go. I'm not a big
Sorry
cream
about
soda
that.
guy. Hey, no worries.
Said monster from earlier, like, actually finally came out of the can.
Oh.
And it turns out exactly tops off my mug.
Ah.
A. B, it exactly topping off my mug is really problematic when you have chunks of slush.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
I really like their pamplemousse flavor. Or pamplemousse. It's like a grapefruit.
Pamplemousse, yeah, or pamplemousse, yeah. But I don't think I've had that. So I'm really into key lime, lemon, and orange. Those are my 4. That
I'm big into their tangerine.
I haven't had their tangerine yet either. I've been meaning to get a bunch of others. I had what was it? There was another one, passion fruit. I think it was.
Yeah,
Passion fruit was pretty
passion
good.
fruit's good.
Yeah, passion fruit was pretty good, but it wasn't my favorite. So, but yeah, I've been meaning to get a few others.
What other podcast on the market can you find both seltzer recommendations and D&D?
That's right. We're a unique brand. We are. Anyway, shall we continue?
Please.
That creates complications for my character and the party. And I feel like when you do that, it makes it so much easier for the GM to say yes to what you're doing, or the DM to say yes to what you're doing. And it's just fun, in my opinion. Because in that same scenario, a Pit Fiend did happen to show up, or Balor, or one of them.
I put them on the same the same avenue.
But because like what we'd been investigating all started with like a butcher shop, and you had said, hey, help. Basically, you said, help me build this temple to the blood god underneath the city.
Right.
What does this look like? What's going on here? And one of the things like that was at it was there was some cultists to fight, and they were dispatched easily. And so I was like, oh, I actually think the blood cultists, the reason why they linked up to this butcher shop is because they have the runnels for the blood set up, so it all runs down into this temple, and it kind of powers the sigil they have on the floor. And when we got to the part where there were cultists there, we dispatched them easily. And I'm like, and not only do we dispatch them easily, their blood splatters all over these sigils and leaks into the runnel and fuels it, which activates a summoning circle. And now, a demon shows up.
And in these situations, that's great. I was having an off night as a DM, and I got to say, okay, what do you guys want out of this scene? And the players bid onto some stuff, and I had some ideas floating around my head. It gelled up with what some of the players put forth with their agency, and I'm like, okay, great.
Yeah. And in that situation, like asking your players, like, hey, I'll let you guys behind the curtain. What do you guys want to fight? You're gonna fight something. Take your pick of the biggest badasses to fight in D&D. That can be a very viable option.
Yes.
If you've like played a shit ton of TTRPGs like Nerdarchy has.
Yes, exactly.
But in that situation, that's you as the DM saying, hey guys, really want player input here. What do you guys want to fight?
Mhm.
And not the player going, hey, is there this that furthers my ends?
Yeah, it's a different situation entirely from a yes and, for sure. It really feels like that. Technically, yes, it is, because they are saying this is the case, and you say yup, and you get to fight it. But I don't know. it really does depend on that experience level of the players and the DM and how much of the campaign you're in and all that kind of stuff. And this also depends on having an off night, really. In this case, which I'm like, when I have an off night, usually I'm like, hey guys, let's not play it today. But there are also times, and this is very true because it happened to us, where we've all been very tired, or most of the people have been very tired, and then we've had a good session, you know.
Not today's session,
Last,
but last session of Vampire the Masquerade, we were all dead.
except for me.
I had thrown up 10 minutes before session.
It's true.
But like there are some days where magic can still happen.
Yes, exactly. So your mileage may vary for sure with this. But also I don't know. It doesn't feel necessarily in the spirit of what we've been discussing, really. It seems like more of a already understood concept that they have put into place with the agency thing, right? Not necessarily an improv yes and, hey, I go into room and this is the case, you know, or can I do this in this room, you know? This is more of a, hey guys, tell me what you want to do. Like, tell me what you want in this room, which is less of it's less of the spontaneity because you are priming them with it, I guess.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, yes, we're always priming our players when we give them scenes and descriptions and such, but it's less that and more, I don't have a thing, tell me what you want. You know? Which is just different to me.
I'll expand it out a little bit more. I'll do this. Dave jumps in. Oh, this is what happens, and voila! You know, he says, "Pit Fiend." The enemies that you guys have been fighting are more chaotic demons, so that really is a Baylor instead of the Pit Fiend. But sure enough, that's what drops.
A legendary Baylor.
It was legendary because like these guys can take a challenge 19 without too much thought. So I gave it legendary actions. I gave it some spell like abilities, and I gave it max hit points, and they still were able to handle it soundly. I think
it was close for some of us.
Even if someone had gotten dropped, there wasn't enough fight in it to bring down half the party.
Unless, of course, it attacked them because he felt it was, after they went down because they felt it was crucial to the story.
Really, you have to ask yourself when players ask stuff, is this something that's going to fit with the balance, the theme, the spirit, the consistency of the game as a whole?
Oh, okay, so that's the three things. It was balance, theme, and spirit, and consistency, I guess. Although, that's four. Because what did we say?
I think balance, theme, and spirit. I think the
consistency then just a different.
Like you want consistent balance. You want consistent theme. You want consistent spirit.
Okay, I see. Yeah, fair enough. But I guess we were off.
Whole. And if you can fit it into that first off, great. But if you have to try to fit that square peg into a round hole, you have to acknowledge that there's sometimes you really just have to
video
say,
proof. You can fit a square peg into a round hole.
Hey, I've seen that meme video of playing that children's block puzzle game where they just take everything and they put it in the square hole. They take the cylinder, they take the bridge, they take. It's great.
In the round hole.
I love it. I love it so much.
I know.
It's probably like 5% or less of the time that no is going to be your only answer because what has been presented to you does not enhance the story or the enjoyment at the table for everyone.
Okay.
It's really, it's usually it comes down to instead of adding fun to the game, a player is taking the opportunity to trying to like get one over.
There you go. Okay, yeah. There you go. That's the better thing, I think. Instead of saying the story and such, it's more just the the player is trying to take away from everybody in general. Get one over is a good term. Thank you.
You guys think? What kind of crazy stories do you have where you've had to tell your player no? There's a great place to tell us those. That's down in the comments below. While you're down there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Don't forget to check out that description where you can find a link to EasyRollerDice.com plus that sweet, sweet, sweet promo code.
So until next time, stay nerdy.
Thanks.
All right.
I will. Oh, there you go.
I will, but not because you told me to.
Right? Oh, that's a big long list of patrons. That's like 12 seconds of that. All right, yeah. Good job, patrons of that. That's a lot. I'm not gonna play through the whole thing because that would just be the music over and over, I assume. Yeah, it is. Woo! That's a lot. But good. Good for them. Yeah, I guess aside from the example that is weird and questionable, in the sense of how relevant it is, it was okay. Yeah, it was an okay video. Yeah.
Yeah, Teardrop Timothy sums it up well. Just okay video.
Yeah, it's okay. I would rather send Ginny's video to people, right? Because that gets the concept across very easily and very digestibly, even with its shortness.
And it agrees with me.
And it agrees with you. Yes.
Ginny agrees with me.
Right. Exactly. There's also that, of course, that we can use as a reason. Oh God. Well, that's it for those. I guess
short session tonight.
Well, we've been going for 2.5 hours here and there, actually. But yeah, it's
2.5 hours is very short for us, Alejo.
It is.
What are you talking about?
It is true.
We've gone till 3 a.m. your time.
Many a time, yes, many a time for sure. These have been more easily agreeable and such. Yes, I will get to comments, of course, and everything. Because I skipped last week's. But I will take the opportunity, of course, to allow Aiden the chance to leave early if you wish. Because
yes,
I'm pretty sure.
I've still got to make my cookies.
Yes.
For the potluck tomorrow.
Yes. So, enjoy doing that, my friend.
Goodbye.
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 Goodbye. All right. So, it is just me. If you can hear my cats in the background, they're yelling at me through the door again. I will soon join them once I read comments. All right. Wishing I'd written a comment so we could still make it to 3 a.m. Yeah. Oh well. I got plenty here to read. So, save the sun from my lore. So, let me get these up on the screen. Let me placate the fairy queens real quick so that they aren't yowling through. Hang on. 2 seconds. Sorry about that. Have to make sure that the fairy queens are placated here and there when I deign to not be in their presence as much as possible. For them, of course. I'm fine with spending the day with my cats, of course. But they do not appreciate when I am away from them for hours at a time. Okay, so let's go to comments. close this and open this. All right. So here we go. We have a few comments from last time. That being here from Timothy. Is that on the screen? Yes. Good. So this is from 2 weeks ago on session 16 of Devils and Dice, saying, "Hello, bros. Hello. New lore. Title: Life in the Valley. Leroy woke up after sleeping for 10 hours. A small side table had been set up with a meal on it. A large bowl of vegetable soup, fresh bread, and a slice of cheese. Excuse me, goodness. A card next to the plate said, hope you slept well. Signed, V and C. As Leroy slowly ate, he looked around the room. Silk curtains, silver trimming on the walls, and so forth. A little over a year and a half ago, I slept in a dirty back room of a trading house. And now, I'm sleeping in a room worth more than some cities, if broken up for parts. It puzzles me how any of this was possible," he thought. After finishing his food and getting dressed, Leroy walked down the tower stairs to Star Ruby's room. Knock knock. Leroy. "Hey, Star, are you awake?" There was no answer. A maid coming down the stairs carrying laundry bid the magic user a friendly greeting. "Good afternoon, Sir Leroy. I hope the bed was to your liking." Leroy. "It was fine, and pass on my gratitude to the one that made the soup." Yes, sir. Can I help with anything else?" Yes. Do you know where my ogre bodyguard is? Or is he asleep in there?" Your party members all got up a few hours ago. I was just changing the sheets of the rooms above yours, the vampire Massimo's room. He seemed to have spilled something black on them that left burn marks." Oh, sorry for that. He must have fallen asleep with a bottle of fire venom in his hand." I couldn't help but feel responsible for the mess, since I made the stuff he is drinking," Leroy thought. No problem, sir. Cleaning is my job, after all. If there were no messes, I would have nothing to do," the boy said with a smile. "Yes, right. Do you happen to know where my friends went after getting up?" No, sir. I can tell you that your tabaxi friend left his pants in the fireplace for some reason." Haha. I see. Thanks." Leroy walked past the maid and continued down the stairs. Upon reaching the landing, Leroy took a moment to trying to remember where everything was. He wasn't quite paying close attention during the tour. Turning toward another maid, Leroy. "Can you tell me where the throne room is?" Maid. "Yes, sir. Down this hallway. Make 2 lefts, then 1 right. And once you're at the hallway, go to the end of it. You can't miss it. Big iron doors, sir." Leroy. "Thank you." When Leroy made it to the throne room, he knocked on the door, making a deep, low ringing noise. Cornell. "Enter." The door slowly opened. In the room, the pink dragon king was sitting in the middle of the room on a large, beautiful throne, reading a book. Maps were spread out all over the tables. Banners and other items were displayed everywhere. Cornell. "You are one tired human, it seems. It's almost sundown." Leroy. "My energy levels have not been the same since the IMO test. It took a lot out of me, more than I realized at first." Cornell. "I understand those IMO tests have killed some in the past, depending on the one running it. I got my tests done at the West Branch. A little old elf was in charge of mine. The whole thing was boring, to be honest. It took me a month to pass." "A month? Mine almost killed me, and it took me 2 weeks." Well done. The elf was just hard to impress. I did get a few injuries, but not too bad." Good for you, I guess. So should I learn about this weapon I'm here to help you with?" "Indeed. I had a vision soon after taking over the Moon Valley. I was told by a seer that I saw a legendary sword forged with the souls of great worms. Ever since then, I've been looking for said great worms, but they make themselves hard to find." Leroy. "What does this sword do?" Cornell. "I do not know, but it will be a power never seen before. Great worms are the highest of dragon kind. Anything made from their souls will be worth the weight. One of every type. of which there are 37. Any leads? A few dead ends here and there. I've gone on many a trip following their trails. I was close to finding a brown great worm, but they got away from me. If you could help find the great worms we need, that would be amazing. Understood. Lend me some things to look over tonight, and we will see. Wonderful. With that taken care of, how was the meal we set up? The cooks were a little nervous since they didn't know what you like. They were nervous about vegetable soup and bread? It was fine. I told the maid to give my thanks, which reminds me. I'm sorry for the messes my party members made. Cornell. Nonsense. My maid's cleaned up after me. I doubt anybody could do worse than they can handle. Speaking of your friends, the ogre Star Ruby went with my Veronica to help all the villages that were attacked by that nameless army. I also have scouts tracking the leftovers that retreated. Hopefully we will find whoever caused this insult to our kingdom. I think we'll find something. I'd be shocked otherwise. Do you know where Galvin and Massimo went? The Tabaxi wanted to explore the city, and the vampire followed behind him. I gave them some money and sent the wild ones off to have fun. Where they are now, I could not say. How do the townsfolk feel about people walking around with no pants? I did notice that. I don't think there will be a problem. I walk around with little on. Yes, but you're a dragon. Do you do the same in human form? I haven't tried. I still doubt people would care. All types have visited the city. Just checking. I wasn't sure how things are done here. Are you afraid for his safety? No need to worry, he will be fine. Well, in Moorworth, you don't go out leaving your pants in the fireplace, that's all. Oh, that's where he left them. Well, if you want, we can go check on them. That would put my mind at ease. Cornell snapped the book closed and sat up. Then let's be off then. That's all I got. Have a nice day. Thanks. Neat. And then I really hate this. I really wish I could get this to go away. This like auto-generated response. It's stupid. Anyway, Timothy on 208 a couple of weeks ago says, "Hello, bros. New lore. Title: A Party at the Fishbone. Leroy and Cornell walked down a main street, the regular noise of a moving city all around them, getting stopped every once in a while by townsfolk saying hi to Cornell. Leroy: You seem to have done pretty well for yourself here. Cornell: You think so? I'm glad you like it. The city has grown rapidly since I took over. It might not be the size of Moorworth, but someday it will be. Does this place have a name? I haven't heard one. It doesn't have a stable name. Some call it Moon Valley City to keep it simple, but the elders who live here call it Moon Ridge. My generals and I just call it the capital, but call it whatever you wish." Interesting. Usually people come to an agreement on a name at some point. Rules seem to be a lot looser here, overall, I've noticed. In some ways, yes. The people here have lived hard lives. The kingdom nearly fell many times according to its history books. They were bullied by other kingdoms, blackmailed at times, and when I reached adulthood and set out to rule a kingdom, I wanted to find a place that needed a better leader. If I took over a happy place, I would be seen as a horror trying to take that happiness away. If I brought happiness to a broken kingdom, gaining loyalty would be easy. And I think it worked out nicely, in terms of looseness. In terms of looseness, I figured people that got kicked around their whole lives needed some more fun and things to do. So I set up some more festivals and holidays, more taverns and art galleries, and Veronica gave me the idea to let their individuality show more, among other things, as long as they mean well when doing so. That makes sense. From what I remember, Veronica never got to do what she wanted a lot growing up. It's nice to see that. It's nice she It's nice she has a life that she is happy with now. Indeed, I could tell when we met that she was holding back parts of herself from me. And as time went by, those layers bloomed for all to see. And within those layers, I saw a true equal. The dragon looked up slightly with a smile. You just might be the most fascinating dragon I've ever met. Just then, a voice called out through the crowd. My king, I found one. Looking back toward the voice, they saw a gnoll pushing their way to the pair. Cornell. Ah, Woodward. Welcome back. Tell us what you found. Oh, sorry, Woodard. Excuse me. Woodard dropped to all fours in front of the king. Woodard. I found one, my king. The gnoll fixed their eyes on Leroy and started to growl. Cornell. Calm yourself, Woodard. This is Leroy Alabaster, my new brother-in-law. The gnoll dropped their head. Woodard. I apologize to the king's blood. Leroy. It's all right. Nice to meet you. Cornell. Continue, General. Woodard. I found a great worm, my king. A black, sir. Cornell's eyes widened. Where are they? Woodard. Far to the west, in a giant isolated swampland. Are you sure it's a great worm? Yes, sir. The power that comes from their body overwhelmed the cleric in my troop. But that's not all we found. The swamp is packed with other creatures, smart ones. They all seem to be working as one, while holding their own land within the swamp for their own. Leroy. So, what that sounds like to me is the groups agreed to share and protect the land without infighting. That's a hard deal to make. Woodard. The new one is right. Some of the largest factions include bullywugs, grungs, turtles, lizard folk, and Kuatoa, among others. In massive numbers never seen before. And if scouts are correct, the Black Dragon lives within a coven, or with a coven of 5 green hags. The scouts got ambushed by a crew of bullywugs on the way out. A few got killed. The swamp itself is bustling with magical energy. Head-on attack seems impossible. Cornell. I see. Go and rest for now. Your trip was a success. Tell the other generals to wait for orders. Yes, sir. I will feast on frog meat and fried fish soon. The gnoll general left, licking their lips. Leroy. I take it that that is where we will go next. Cornell. First, we need to learn as much as we can about this mysterious swamp. It sounds like a fortress of nature itself. I heard legends about a place similar to that, but very little actual information. Not even bullywugs I've talked to that work in trade said much about it. Maybe Targasus knows something being a druid. I'll send him a letter as soon as possible. Sounds good, but in the meantime, let's find Galvin and Massimo. After you. The two came across a small tavern called the Fishbone. Cornell. This is a popular spot for satyrs and gnomes. Big party place. Galvin might like it here. Leroy. Yes, he would like it here. Quick question. How did you get a gnoll to work for you? Woodard was a strong pack lord of a large group of her fellow gnolls. She attacked soon after I took over. She thought a new ruler would be weak. It took 5 days of combat to defeat them. Afterwards, I struck a deal with her to join me, lending her skills to my side. After I threw in the perk that she gets to eat her kills, she took it. Oh, and brought her forces into my army. If you can make a deal like that with a gnoll, you are a better tradesman than I. Along with a little magic to help things, the dragon started giggling as he walked into the tavern. Looking around the tavern, satyrs, gnomes, halflings, and dwarves were all drinking their hearts out, laughing and playing games. From one corner, they heard a familiar voice yell to them. Hey guys! Hick! Over here! Hick! I saved you a seat! I can't do a good hiccup right now. Following the voice, they saw Galvin sitting with Massimo and 2 gnomes, and at least 25 empty mugs around them. That's all I got. Have a nice day. Thank you. And thank you for the comment, of course, as usual. And then, on 208 as well, we have Unit Rico saying, I don't know any of the context for that hill giant battle map, nor much of their lore, so take this with a pinch of salt, but couldn't they have just taken up residence in an already existing structure created by medium creatures? This would also explain why the whole structure seemed to be more elaborate than what they've been able to create given their lower intelligence. Sure, this leaves you with the question of why they'd go and live in there in the first place, considering they really have to squeeze themselves in there. But that's definitely a well thought out plot point or hint towards super deep lore, and definitely not something the DM overlooked but can retrofit to make themselves look like a long-term planned genius when they reveal they were just fleeing from the big bad evil guy, hill giant eating dragon or something. I kid, but it seems kind of ironic that this was all glossed over in a video that gives tips on how to make giants more interesting, give them more depth, now that I think about it. Yes. Thank you for the comment. And yes, absolutely. It's, yeah, you would think that that would be just prime real estate for the taking, especially when, Luke himself had issue with that being presented. So instead of, like, giving you fixes for it, he went into how it was bad, and that was kind of it. And to be fair, we did the same thing. We didn't really give too many fixes for it, but we were at least trying to reason out as to how this could be, like, why it was designed this way, and we were trying to figure out exactly how, like, if it was a possibility for them to have created that place. And I agree as well that, you could say, hey, yeah, this is something that they took over, but yeah, as you said, why would they do that instead of, you know, creating a place themselves? It's a little strange, but because of all the squeezing and such, right? And again, I don't know the entire context of that adventure, because it is part of the Tales of the Yawning Portal. So maybe there's more to it than that, because I only read the bit in the beginning that didn't give me anything really to go on about the premise or anything, and I don't know if the point of the Tales of the Yawning Portal is just ideas to then throw at players. I'm not sure. Perhaps that is a failing on my part for not looking into it more at the time, but to be fair, we were also really fixated on the giant aspect, and that was more of the coverage that time around. But please, in future, if somebody knows more about that book or things about that adventure specifically, do let me know in the comments and such, so that you can correct us, because it's important to be called out on that shit if we got it wrong somehow. But I think ultimately the point being, if you're improving giants, why not improve that whole adventure in your video a little bit? But I think we spoke about how we would improve giants ourselves that whole time. Anyway, thank you for the comment, Rico. And then again, on when we did Return to Moria through the new year, Rico says, yeah, GW gave Moria a few extra monsters to fill out their roster a bit. Most of them made it to the new edition, though some are waiting on their rules. Though the Dweller in the Dark has been moved to Legends. Aw. They're essentially mini Balrogs. They look quite cool, and I guess they were inspired by the Nameless Things. Gotcha. Also, fun fact that Thorngill, that's mentioned in those ranger camps, is actually Aragorn. Or at least that's what the Gondorians called him when he was a ranger. Didn't know that. That's cool. And if I recall correctly, Tolkien never really settled on a true origin of the orcs that he really liked. They couldn't be created because Morgoth's whole thing was that he was jealous because he couldn't create life, but I don't think the corrupted elves idea was ever the final canon lore. I don't believe so as well. I'm not sure. All I remember is that it was something to do with them doing that kind of thing. In the instance of them being a people that didn't have free will. I think that was the whole idea. But again, I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to. I do plan on listening to the Silmarillion sometime, just so that I have that experience at least in my head, just to see what was potentially the ideas there, because I'm sure that explains a bunch, and it's something that I find interesting. So we'll see. But that's a way future thing potentially. Anyway, I'm excited about the Swamp Arc to come. Good. I'm excited to read it. Female hyenas are in charge of clans in real life. That is why Woodard is female. Yeah, fair enough. That's fine. Sariko also says on last week's episode, congratulations on half a decade. To many more shows to come. That's incredibly kind. Thank you. Looks like it's also time for my regularly scheduled shilling for Fallout 2D20. One of these days I will get back to running it. I hope that you do. Where failing a perception line like skill check usually means you still find the thing, just with some kind of downside, having monsters show up while you scavenge, for instance. Or you can buy extra dice to roll by handing resources to the DM. Plenty of ways to still use rolls while not completely stopping any progress in the story. Yeah. Also, all that talk about Lovecraftian nightmares and having your entire grasp on reality and the rules of the universe collapse really makes me think of apples for some reason. Oh, okay. On a more serious note, I think that's also why it's different in most fantasy settings. Characters know gods and dragons and magic are all real. Your grasp on the world already includes all of these things, so encountering new outlandish things is not going to have the same effect as it would on someone in our world. Yep. The Session 0 alternative of posting an info tease and intro blurb is also how quite a few of our campaigns have started. We've also done some Session Zeros, particularly for non-D&D systems to make sure everyone has a good baseline on how the system works. But both can work at the same time. They're not mutually exclusive. The form might just be slightly different. Yes. 100% yes. I just find it that the ideas, or sorry, the assertion put forth that the Session 0 doesn't accomplish the same things is, or it doesn't accomplish things in the best way that it is meant to, is ridiculous. So, yeah, I don't know. I think we went into good enough detail for that one, for sure, just so that you can find basically exactly what we said. As our opinion on it, pretty clearly. Anyway, Timothy, also on last week's... Oh boy, okay. I can see this, I'll get to it. Hello, bros. Hello. Let me take a drink of water real quick. Okay. New lore. The Log of Alabaster, entry 38. Sitting between a laughing drunk tabaxi with no pants and a pink dragon king covered in gold and gems, half listening to others while lost in thought about what happened outside a few moments ago. Most likely, it was an interesting experience to be sure. Yes, indeed. Excuse me, sorry. There we go. But I don't really blame Cornell for getting stuck in his own head right now. The news we heard hit like a charging bull. This great worm black dragon sighting is a big project to handle, given the other big-ticket issue of tracking down the nameless army that attacked. And all of this is also my problem now. Sigh. My train of thought was broken by Galvin saying, "Hey, Leroy, look, the guy that owns his place gave me 10 gold to paint that wall behind you." Oh, owns this place. Gotcha. When I turned around, I saw a huge landscape creation made with what looked like a charcoal and oil-based painting on the back wall. When I looked back at Galvin, he had a beaming grin on his face. Leroy: "You did really well, Galvin. Great detail in the trees." Galvin: "I knew you'd like it. I've worked on it most of the day." Where did the paint come from? I don't remember you bringing that much art supplies along." The tavern keeper had buckets of paints in the back. Somebody covered their bar tab with it. And when I told him I was an artist, he asked me to make something to use all that paint. All the paint he had no idea what to do with. Some of my best work, I think. Cornell: "Marvelous, Galvin. I might have to get you to do some of your skills at the castle and General's Palace." Leroy: "Did he have a brush back there as well?" Galvin: "Nah, and since I forgot my brushes back at the castle, I used my hands." When Galvin said that, I looked down at his hands and saw they were stained heavily from the paint. Leroy: "How did you get that much detail using your hands?" Galvin: "The tips of my claws work great for that." a gnome sitting nearby. That feline has talent. Have another drink on me, and 2 for the king. Cornell, why thank you. I'll take you up on that. The satyrs that were sitting with us got up to leave, patting Massimo and Galvin on the back as they went. Satyr, been great talking to you. Good luck, painting. Good luck on painting that stuff. Galvin, oh, I just remembered I bought Massimo a gift earlier. Massimo, a gift? Me? You don't need to. Galvin, too late. Already got it. I put it in my pony's saddlebag. One moment. Galvin stumbled out the back door. About 10 minutes later, he came back holding a box. Galvin, my bloodsucker needs a new look. Upon opening the box, he pulled out a silver and blue jester's outfit. Massimo, this is amazing. This is mine? Galvin, you bet. I told you I wanted to get you a new one, and when Cornell gave me that big bag of spending money, I saw my chance. Cornell, you're very welcome. Massimo, thank you so much, Galvin. I'll go try it on now. Cornell, it looks like you made Massimo quite happy. Galvin, that's what I was hoping for. Leroy, sorry to wreck the joyful mood, but any ideas about the Black Dragon Great Worm, Cornell? The dragon's face went cold for a second. Cornell, good question. This swamp they live in will make it a challenge to even get to them. And the Great Worm living with 5 green hags adds more complexity to it. Leroy, right. Plus, very little information is available about that place. I don't remember any maps for the area. The only idea I have is to ask Targasus, hoping he knows anything. Cornell, a druid should know something. A big patch of nature like that should be popular in druid groups. The only reason for keeping the place unknown are one, the people that live in the swamp want to be left alone for the most part. Or 2, outsiders can go there, but a rule keeps people from speaking about the details. And either one would make sense if a coven of green hags and Great Worm called the place home. Leroy, that swamp may be their main base, but green hags usually have more than one home. Maybe I should look at some records for mentions of really strong green hags that might help. Cornell, good call, brother-in-law. One thing I do know is that we won't be able to bring a big army into the swamp. They are famously hard to navigate in large groups. I'll have to put together a small crew with Woodard, since she has been there already. And Leroy, can I ask a favor of you? Leroy, ask away. I would like you and Star Ruby to join this party. Star Ruby's power in battle would be a great help, and a magic user like you for support will be very useful for everyone. Leroy, that's what I'm here for. I take it Veronica is staying here. Cornell, this trip will take a while, I imagine, and since the news about the nameless army could come any day, I need someone to hang back to handle it, and Veronica is the perfect person for that. I will talk things over with her tonight to set the plans in motion. Excuse me. Leroy, fair enough. Star Ruby and I will be ready when you are. Cornell, many thanks, Leroy. Having you here means a lot. Hopefully we can bring home the first Great Worm's soul. Galvin sat there listening to us with a confused look on his face. Galvin, wait, hags? Swamps? Souls? What did I miss? Leroy, I will tell you later. That's all I got. Have a nice day. Thank you. Thank you for the lore, as usual. And of course, you said as well, also, congrats on 5 years, and sorry to Alejo's voice for reading 3 lore dumps in a row. That is all right. Thank you for commenting all of your lore as you do. And thank you to everybody who comments, of course, as always, because it is very cool to read out comments and see everybody engaging and your opinions and such, of course. Anyway, that's it. I have read everything. We have gone through everything. It is time for me to say the shilling stuff. So, I would say, of course, oh, where's my fucking thing? There it is. Hey, a big thank you goes out to our lovely, lovely table flippers, who are on our Patreon. You can join and be a table flipper for as little as $1 a month on either Patreon or on Ko-fi. Both have the exact same benefits, of course. So going there, you can find... there we go. You can find some stuff. I do editing streams that you can go and check out and be a part of if you are a table flipper. I'm going to do one tomorrow because there's a lot more editing to be done, and I want to get that set. We have more Vampire to make or to put out on the 1st of each month, so I want to get to doing that some more, and I have to get back to the Delta Green stuff. It all just takes a lot of time, but I enjoy being able to spend that time with people. So if you want to come and hang out and listen and talk, we can. And yeah, big thank you goes out to Draco Kraken, Rick, aka Unit Rico, and Steely at tier 4. Big thanks to you. Very, very much so. Thank you so much for being with us for that half a decade, of course. Thank you goes out to Crimson Rose as well. Thank you for being in tier 2. And a thank you goes out to our tier 1 contributors. As said, join for as little as $1 a month, and you can be a part of this if you wish, to get early access and everything, and the editing streams and everything, as well as potentially being a part of when we do games with table flippers. A new one will come about at some point when I have the time, but that is not right now. Anyway, that also being said, you can go over to TeePublic at the moment to get our merchandise on whatever you want through them, if you wish to. Soon enough, it will change to Fourth Wall once I get everything uploaded and set, so look forward to when that changes as well. But for now, you can go over there and get whatever you want on there. Absolutely. And I'm probably just going to leave this up as well in the future. So if you want to go over there in the future as well to get something, you can. Faces, logos, whatever you want through that. Last but not least, you can go over to the Support Us page on our website. Sorry, not last. The penultimate, if you will. Support us to see all the things that I've talked about and will talk about. And go and get our custom dice, which I actually might be able to sell through the Fourth Wall page as well, because it lets you do your own custom items. I just have to make sure that I get all the things up to code and everything. We'll see. But for now, it is over here. It is through a different site. And you can buy them for about $15 right there, you can see. And there's 96 sets left, so if you want another set of dice that's themed to the TableTalk discussion and discourse logo, it's there. Mab is now yelling at my door. So let's get through this part quick. Last but not least, we have Humble Bundle. We are partnered with. There's a link in the description to support us, as well as get whatever you want through the store to support us, and charity. It's nondescript charity, of course, because it's whatever the bundle or things decide to do. Right now, looks like we got Dungeon Master Essentials here for miniatures and scenery. Shh. And a Pathfinder Starfinder comics bundle there. Interesting. There's a bunch of good stuff here. More tabletop and RPG resources from Dice Geeks here as well. A bunch of things for you to check out, as well as obviously if you buy anything through the choice here every month, as well as on the store, the actual store itself, through this, you can go and get whatever you want through there, and it supports us as well as if you use the link in our description. So go do that if you wish. Up to you, of course. As with everything, the free option of just liking, commenting, and subscribing here on YouTube, and following the show on your podcasting service of choice, and leaving comments through that as well, and ratings and whatever. That is obviously the other option. that you can take advantage of, and we appreciate you if you do so that way as well. But that does it for us for tonight. So I thank you once again for joining us, donating a little bit of your time to hanging out with us. Thank you for joining the chats and stuff, and watching in future, and whatever you'd like to do. And we'll see you next week for another lovely, lovely discussion. Bye-bye, everybody. Goodbye. I'll see you next week. Maybe even sooner if you tune into one of the digital distractions or the editing stream or whatever it may be. Bye-bye.